tentacle arms are engorged with the collected urine that makes up much of tide pools. Whale urine, fish urine, otter urine, crab urine, all sucked up by the moon and deposited in these natural outhouses. Clownfish share a symbiotic relationship with sea anemones. The clownfish cleans the sea anemone. In exchange, the anemone sprays urine on the face of the clownfish. It's one fetishistic delight. Contrary to popular belief, sea urchins are not in fact animals. Indeed, they are not alive at all. They are simply the clumped-together leavings of the ocean's denizens.
This is the Onion News Network.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number you can call, and you can get in on the conversation with us, talk about whatever's on your mind. That's 603-283-6160, and with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Lori.
And we already have a caller on the line, so let's go straight to your phone calls and thoughts. Dave Ridley, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
So, do you guys know much about the Killington incident in Vermont?
No.
Okay, I don't know if incident is really the right word for it, but back around 2004, a part of Vermont tried to secede to New Hampshire, and its population voted to do so.
Wow.
And then Vermont was just like, no?
Well, when I say it's population, it may have been like a town hall meeting or a council vote or something like that. I was thinking it was pretty close to a popular vote, and it was because of over taxes. They thought if they seceded to New Hampshire, they'd get lower taxes.
But did the state government tell them, no, you can't do that, anything?
Well, it's a little more complicated than that. The New Hampshire government actually spent some money to bring them in. I mean, I'm against them spending money on it, but it was nice to see the New Hampshire government welcoming them. On the other hand, the Vermont government stopped them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
They just said, "Oh, yeah, you're not allowed to do that."
It's just shocking. I've never heard anything at all about this.
But it drew a lot of attention to Killington's demands, as secession movements often do. They don't really achieve secession, but they get a lot of publicity, and hopefully things get a little bit better. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Interesting.
So anyway, that didn't really go very far after that. But what has happened is, I guess, a Maine senator has now proposed that his entire district, the entire congressional district that he lives in, secede to New Hampshire.
It's not Berkey, is it?
Yeah, Brakey.
It's him?
Yeah, Eric Brakey. He's now president of the Free State Project also.
Yeah, that's why I asked. He's still a Maine senator, but his term's going to be over soon. And he's moving to New Hampshire, and he is now the president of the Free State Project, so that's the only Maine senator I know at all, so that's why I asked. I said Berkey, but I meant Brakey.
Yeah, and he's not like a senator at the federal level. He's just a state senator. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it does.
So he's been getting some publicity for this, as, again, secession movements often do. Let's hope, when you look at the map, though, a radio station was reporting on this, and they posted a map of how much territory we get. It's like we get almost all of Maine.
Wow.
So Maine had better be careful not to anger its people.
Yeah, that's seems like something that, the higher-ups in Maine are just going to stop from happening, just like the Vermont ones did. I mean, first of all, we'd be getting a bunch of land, and that'd be awesome.
Maine's beautiful. I'm for it.
I know, I love Maine. And I used to tell Ian, I was like, I really liked Maine. Like, it'd be fun to even just live there. If it was New Hampshire, Ian would be open to it.
Yeah. The other thing that it brings up is that if New Hampshire ever became independent, which it might if things get bad enough at the federal level, there could be a situation where you would see maybe Keene and Portsmouth wanting to secede from New Hampshire and stay inside the Union, right? If we look at U.S. history and we look at Yugoslav history and Russian history and all these different places where places have broken up, there's always been some part of the seceded area that wants to stay with the mother country. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that could totally happen, and I would be welcoming of the people of Keene seceding and being part of Vermont or Massachusetts. They deserve it.
Well, I mean, I would vote against it. I live in Chester County, but if you think about it, one of the reasons that I think we can be tolerant of something like that is because as long as that works both ways, we would probably gain a lot of territory from parts of other states wanting to join us, and I think there would be much more of the latter than there is of places wanting to leave New Hampshire. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would think that there would be. But people like Keene is just so Democrat, like the people of the actual city of Keene, not like the people who live right outside. They're so Democrat. They should totally be a part of Vermont.
I was at an NH exit outreach a couple months ago in Keene, and one of the guys was asking some questions, and one of the things I told him was, you don't really have to worry, because if you're if you're not sure about this whole secession thing, don't worry. It's not going to happen until you're in favor of it, right? We're going to need so many people on our side. The folks who are against it right now would have to almost be on our side before it would happen. So it's not something to fear. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to say something about the Keene people. I feel like here most people are definitely against it, but they're also just against anything that Ian Freeman is for.
Mm-hmm. It does feel like it's like Eastern Vermont.
Yeah. There was one of the exact same events that you were just talking about, a outreach for NH Exit in Keene downtown, that this like native Keene lady physically attacked Ian on camera. Yeah, it's on freekeene.com.
Wow.
I
And
saw that. And when Russell, when the one I was at, I didn't see this. No one saw it except the homeless people. They told us later.
Oh.
So apparently some lady flipped us off, grabbed all our signs, and fled the scene before we noticed.
Oh, that sucks.
But of course, we only had two signs up, so she didn't get much except a lot of stuff to carry around. And where's she going to throw it away?
Wow. Ian was just laughing about it. It's not like she like really hurt him or something. She just like smacks him or smacks his camera. I don't remember. But pretty dumb.
Well, it's the big picture that counts, and the big picture says we have 42% support in New Hampshire, according to the Survey USA scientific poll. 42% support already for an independence referendum.
That's more than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Support just having a referendum? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's just the number in support of a referendum. That's not the number that would vote yes, which is smaller. I don't know what the exact number is.
Still really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. Like, the reason I complain about Keene is because it's not like New Hampshire itself. Even just like the people who live right outside it, like I was saying, like when I worked at the Moose Mart, it's kind of on the edge of of Keene. And it's like you talk to a lot of people who come in every day to Keene to work, and most of them are such normal, good people you can have like a rational conversation with. It's like the people who like live here and went to the college and now they like give their money to the college and stuff. Man, some of them are so awful. And most of them are super old, so I just feel like they know their days are numbered. Anything else for us, Dave?
Nothing to add.
Thank you so much for the call, Dave Ridley, and you can go to ridleyreport.com if you'd like to hear more from him, and you can also call 603-283-6160 if you want to call in with whatever is on your mind. This from the Wall Street Journal. TD Bank, I don't remember what it stands for, it's Toronto something. It's actually started in Canada, but it's a big bank up in New England, and I know it's in other parts of the country, but I never heard of it till I came up here.
I was just there yesterday.
I hate being there. But just letting the listeners know if they don't know what it is, it's a really big bank. TD Bank, they agree to $3 billion in penalties and growth restrictions in a U.S. settlement. And what's so crazy about this story is that basically this group, these people that run this bank, were money laundering. They don't have to go to prison for an extended amount of time. They just, pay off a little measly to them fine.
Mm-hmm. They just say, sorry.
Yep.
And then that's it.
It says Canadian Bank's U.S. unit, but the thing is, it's a Canadian bank, but it's also huge in the United States too.
Mm-hmm.
Canadian Bank's U.S. unit pleaded guilty to charges that it failed to build proper anti-money laundering systems. And that's exactly what they were talking about with Ian. It's not like they ever believed that there was a straight conversation with Ian and a scammer, and he was like, yeah, I'll take your money and I'll launder it or anything like that. They're just saying, well, he didn't make proper anti-money laundering systems. He didn't put those things in place to make sure it didn't happen, which is absolutely ridiculous on its in its own right. But
it is ridiculous. You should not be responsible for what other people are doing.
Also, he did have systems in place. It's just that people will lie to you, and therefore they're just gonna be able to make up a thing. Well, don't you think he should have tried harder?
No.
But if he did nothing, if he did none of that stuff to try to make sure people weren't getting scammed, etc., but he had filled out some paper, then he'd just be just like the bank and just get a slap on the wrist. Well, unless they really wanted to get you, because they always do.
I think it's insane that you are responsible for other people's actions. Why should I have to deal with the fact that other people didn't do their due diligence and got scammed? Why should I be responsible for that I'm not even in their transaction?
Mm-hmm. Well, they believe that if you fill out this paperwork, the thing about it is they filled out the paperwork, they have all the licenses for being people that deal with people's money. So therefore, people think that they're more safe if they go through TD. I think it's hilarious that, people who've been using TD for a bank, like I have a TD bank account, have this understanding and this expectation that they're using something that's much more safe than if they were just buying Bitcoin on the internet. Wow, that's the Wild West. Mm-hmm. And these people were doing actually, found to be actually looking the other way, and money laundering is just so crazy. And in fact, it's risky too for them to be using other people's money and doing something illegal, because they had to pay $3 billion in penalties. Mm-hmm. Those are the people who are holding on to your money, my money too. TD Bank agreed to pay more than $3 billion in penalties and accepted limits on its growth in the U.S. as part of a settlement Thursday with regulators and prosecutors over charges it failed to properly monitor money laundering by drug cartels and other criminal groups. As part of the agreement, the bank's primary U.S. regulator, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, imposed an asset cap barring the bank's retail business from growing above its current level of assets in the U.S. TD's U.S. entity also pleaded guilty to criminal charges to resolve a Justice Department investigation. Both the Justice Department and the Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, have ordered independent monitors in place to watch the bank closely and ensure compliance with the pacts. The FinCEN monitor will be in place for 4 years. I don't know. Isn't the FinCEN supposed to be monitoring banks anyway? Because that's the whole thing.
You would think.
That's the whole reason they're supposed to exist. You're supposed to feel safe using this bank because you see the little plaque on their desk that say something about FinCEN.
Mm-hmm. See, that's the thing about, we had a whole conversation, me and Chris, weeks ago about all these regulatory agencies. Mm-hmm. They're supposed to monitor these things. They're supposed to make sure these things are safe. But that's not actually what they do. They just sit around and wait. And then when something goes so terribly wrong that they can no longer just sit around, they get involved, and then they're like, well, we're going to regulate and we're going to watch you.
That's exactly what sounds like happened here. Mm-hmm. It says, the settlement announced Thursday and confirming an earlier report in the Wall Street Journal included the Justice Department, FinCEN, and the OCC and the Federal Reserve. Okay. The Justice Department will receive the biggest slice of the penalties. Oh, so they are also getting in trouble. Or no, they're getting
paid out.
That makes sense.
Yeah, they're like, you did something wrong, so obviously now you owe us money for some reason that
So-
we're going to make up. Like, I don't understand how they would owe the Justice Department money.
Yeah.
Why would they pay fines to the Justice Department?
That's
Was the Justice Department a victim of these scams? I don't think so.
That's a super common one to get paid a fine, and it kind of makes no sense at all. Like in Ian's case, he wanted to ask them to make sure that if he gets any fines, like it goes to the people themselves, and it didn't all, I guess, but with his like agreement that he came to at the end, it was like the best he could do with like the least amount of money going to the government. And I think they didn't want to have that conversation because like if they had to have that conversation, well, it's like obvious to people like this is all you guys just do all this crap in order to get a big paycheck. So obvious.
Right.
And also I was like surprised by that part being in this article because it's like it never really gets acknowledged, or like I never see that in articles like, oh, and like after this trial happened, here's where all the fine went to. You just kind of think it goes to quote unquote the government. It's like this nebulous idea instead of like, I like that it said that because it's like people should know that that's what happened. It doesn't go to, you know, like the homeless or something.
Right. Or the people who were actually purported victims of whatever this was.
Yep.
It goes to the government.
So the Justice Department literally has a huge incentive to find people, quote unquote, committing crimes. I'm not even saying like, oh, TD Bank did nothing wrong here. It's not really what I'm saying at all because we haven't even gotten into what they did. I'm just simply saying that anytime anybody is doing something wrong, the Justice Department, FinCEN, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the Federal Reserve, apparently, that's the most shocking one, are going to get a paycheck, and why they have no incentive to not be finding people, quote unquote, doing wrong things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
in fact, it's the opposite. They're incentivized to find you guilty.
Yep. It says FinCEN's $1.3 billion settlement is the largest civil penalty against a bank in Treasury history. There were serious failures of our U.S. AML program. I don't know what that is. Anti-money laundering.
Oh, yeah.
That just occurred to me. Said TD's chief executive officer, Bharat Masrani, during a conference call Thursday afternoon. We have taken full responsibility for these significant failures. Masrani, who called Thursday a sad day in our history, announced in September that he is stepping down. Wow, he stepped down over this. The bank's U.S. head, Leo Salam, said the bank would reduce its $434 billion asset portfolio in the U.S. by 10%, including by selling some jumbo mortgages and auto dealer loans to give itself some room to continue lending money to retail and commercial clients. See, like, it's like they clearly did something that ultimately isn't good for like the American people and I'm not saying TD did nothing wrong. I'm saying by their getting in trouble and by the government even going after them, like all of this, ultimately now their assets portfolio will be cut down by 10%. So they're doing less auto dealer loans. They're doing less jumbo mortgages. It's not going to be good for like the average person.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it will be like the end of the world or anything, but just that little bit is the government and regulatory agencies chopping away at, you know, people being productive in society. The sweeping rebuke shows regulators and prosecutors found the problems at TD to be severe. The OCC said TD had significant, long-standing systemic breakdowns in its transaction monitoring program. Another thing is, like, I'm so afraid that this is going to end up with the government being like, not the government, the banks being like, we need, like, not just TD, because other banks watch what happens to other banks. Well, now, we need to be, like, super severe in our monitoring of everything that people are doing. We don't want to end up like TD, you know? Mm-hmm. That's annoying. When
I opened an account yesterday as while I was there because I bank with a bank that's not in the area. So it was like getting obscenely difficult and I needed to get a check for something. And I was like, I don't want to order it and have to wait for it and spend all this money on checks that I don't need a whole book of checks for. So I opened up an account and like it took an hour to open the account. And like they were asking me all these things like, oh, do you do like wire transfers? Do you do any business outside of the country? Like so many questions that I've never been asked before when opening a bank account. So maybe it's due to this.
Yeah, that's a good point. whenever I opened my bank account with the one that's just like on that corner right up there, it also took a really long time. It was annoying, but I guess that was also more due to the fact that I was like opening a business account, so like they had to like make sure a whole bunch of things. That when I've opened one for myself personally in the past, it like not just with TD, with any bank, it's always been a lot simpler. So
yeah, it's always been really quick, but it was just a regular personal checking account, no savings, no nothing fancy about it. Like their basic checking account, it took an hour to do.
Should not take an hour,
Yeah.
it feels like.
Right.
It says TD processed hundreds of millions of dollars worth of transactions that clearly indicated highly suspicious activity, which created a potential for significant money laundering, terrorist financing, or other illicit financial transactions. And, you know, none of these individual clerks who are looking at stuff that apparently is clearly indicating highly suspicious activity, none of them are in prison for 8 years like Ian.
No.
And I'm not saying I even want them to be. I'm just simply saying, like, they pick and choose who they put into prison. It said, for instance, TD allowed 3 money laundering networks to transfer more than $670 million through TD bank accounts between 2019 and 2023. That's not really good, for instance, because I want to get, like, the details. You know, I want to see what they were doing that was so obvious. Says TD Bank's AML failures made it convenient for criminals, in the words of its employees. Whoa. Their employees are saying, oh, it's convenient for criminals.
We have
It's
no
kinda
real
dumb.
security.
Says Wells Fargo has been operating under a similar order restricting its size since 2018, after its bankers were found to have been opening fake accounts for clients.
Yeah, I remember that whole thing going. They did it to me. So I had checking and savings, and I closed my savings account, and then like I didn't have one for a long time, and I signed on one day, and I had another account in my online banking, and I was like, "What is this?" And it was a savings account that somebody just opened.
Whoa.
Yeah,
So
to get their so they have metrics, and you know, like you got to sign people up for so many things.
Oh, that makes sense. Not like that it's okay. Like that kind of makes sense. But now I see what you're saying. That's pretty annoying. It's like you should be able to make that choice for yourself, obviously.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can. It was ruled as fraud, and they had to pay customers out. It was like some big class action lawsuit payout thing, but you know, whenever those happen, they're like, you could be owed money, and then you go and look, and they're like, you get $4.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember a big thing with Western Union. I've never had them, and it was like a big story, but I never like went and read about it. So apparently it was a similar situation. It says federal authorities opened an investigation into TD's internal controls after agents discovered a Chinese criminal operation had laundered millions of dollars in fentanyl sales through TD branches in New York and New Jersey and bribed bank employees, the Journal reported. The group ultimately moved more than $470 million through the bank, prosecutors revealed Thursday. I wanted to look at more of like the exact examples of these and see how similar they are, or how much like worse they are than Ian's. Already what we read is like so much worse than what happened for Ian, and of course he's like shown to be, or they act like he's some kind of like, you know, horrible monster in the news. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Rising fees have made Bitcoin useless for purchases, but Dash continues to have fees less than 1 cent per transaction, and its features ensure Dash is undefeated as the most useful cryptocurrency in the marketplace. From a technical standpoint, Dash transactions are irreversible, and its network is protected from 51% attacks by their Chainlocks technology. There's no need to wait for a confirmation before considering a Dash transaction complete, so it's great for merchants. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at Dash.org. Big thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit Dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Sally Patterson with a look back at some of the week's top stories. Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, who was behind the October 7th attacks, has been killed in Gaza. Sinwar, who was jailed by the Israelis for decades, had become the movement's most powerful figure in the months since Hamas's attack on Israel. Israeli officials examined dental images and DNA evidence to identify the body. The Hamas leader was killed by Israeli forces on Wednesday. Iran called Sinwar's death a source of inspiration for resistance fighters. Our US correspondent Simon Marks reports.
Mr. Sinwar was seen here in Washington as the key figure representing Hamas in now defunct talks about a possible ceasefire and release of hostages. He was well known to the Israelis, having spent decades in their jails and becoming friendly in jail with at least one Israeli who would go on to become a key negotiator with Hamas. On several occasions previously, Mr. Sinwar was reported to have been killed, only later to have shown up alive and still in charge in Gaza.
David Menzer is a spokesperson for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He says Sinwar's killing does not mean the end of the war.
The mission is not over yet. It is certainly, as the Prime Minister said, the first day of the day after Hamas, we think. But our mission will not end until we bring all of our 101 hostages home.
The United States described Sinwar's death as a good day for Israel and the world. Meanwhile, the US has demanded Israel boost aid access to Gaza and warned failure to do so would risk cutting off some US military assistance. Benji Haya reports.
This letter amounts to the strongest known written warning yet from the White House, urging the Israeli government to allow for a greater distribution of aid in Gaza for at least the next 4 months. Israel's ground offensive has forced millions of Palestinians to evacuate their homes to temporary camps, exposing them to dangerous diseases.
Earlier this week, former One Direction singer Liam Payne was found dead in Argentina at the age of 31. Local officials say he fell from the balcony of his hotel room in Buenos Aires. Staff at the hotel had requested urgent police assistance shortly before Payne's death. They were concerned about an aggressive man who, quote, could be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. In a statement, Payne's former bandmates said they were taking some time to grieve and process their loss. Showbiz reporter in LA, Sean Mandel, says fans had been hoping for a One Direction reunion.
So many people will have grown up with One Direction, will have grown up with the music of them and can still vividly remember where they were and how they felt when the band broke up.
That's your roundup of news making headlines this week. Sally Patterson reporting.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And not your keys, not your coin is a lesson that too many people have learned the hard way. It's always best to get your crypto into a wallet that you control, but not all wallets are equal. Many of our hosts have been using Edge for years to manage crypto, and there aren't many wallets to compare. Featuring a unique login system that makes it easier for you to access your crypto from multiple devices, Edge is designed to be user-friendly. In a space that can be notoriously difficult for non-tech people, Edge is a valuable tool for novices and experts alike. You can learn more at edge.app, which features a link at the top for those who wish to learn more about crypto and wallets. Thank you again for Edge for sponsoring Free Talk Live for $1,500 a month. And again, to learn more, visit edge.app. On Free Talk Live with you tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Lori.
And in the last segment, we were just talking about, just finishing up this article even, about TD Bank, a Canadian bank that's also here in America, that money laundered so much money that the regulatory agents are calling it just like incredibly obvious and egregious with what they did, like the types of things that they turned a blind eye to. And the most obnoxious part of this whole thing is just the fact that they will treat people who didn't sign a piece of paper saying, I have a license now, as if they are a danger to society. Genuinely, the prosecutors in Ian Freeman's case, my husband, which you can learn more at freeiannow.org. You can learn all about the case because they have links to Jacob Hornberger's articles about it that go into such great depth and details. I was like, was he there watching the trial? No, he just like had access to the transcripts and is just like he's like an expert, so he knows what he's looking for and what he's reading. Anyways.
You get more punishment if you like accidentally file your taxes wrong.
Yeah. These people are just getting, they're being forced to like shut some stuff down, be like stunted in their growth, which is like, doesn't that just harm American people? But
they got to pay some of your money and your interest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they're also having to pay a fine, and that's it. They don't have to be separated from their families for 8 years. They don't have to face the possibility of going to prison for life for over like several years of going through the court system. No, they have the little piece of paper that says they have the permission of the government to, run a business. So some of the things they were doing, it says the banks. Maybe I actually have to go up. In May 2023, U.S. regulators' concerns over the probe and TD's ability to detect and prevent money laundering scuttled the bank's planned $13.4 billion acquisition of Tennessee's First Horizon. It says the bank's lax anti-money laundering controls also exposed it to other criminal groups, according to prosecutors. In one case, a jewelry business moved nearly $120 million through shell accounts before TD reported the suspicious activity to regulators.
What is it for like normal people, how much money you have, and before they like report you to the IRS is like $4,000 or something like that? $6,000?
Oh, before, like how much money you make before
like how much of a deposit, like how many... And you can't do them like in small deposits within a certain amount of time or else they report. I think it's like $6,000 or...
I think it's 10.
Maybe it's 10.
Because I've always heard people being like, oh, but if you just put $999 or $9,999, but obviously you'll get in trouble for that because they'll say it's you trying to skirt. No, you can't possibly have just made $9,999.
Yeah, they call it, I forgot now.
I forget
there's
too.
There's a specific word.
They're trying...
Structured deposit, like structured deposits so that you... hit below the limit so you don't get reported. But like, it's obviously not, what was that, $1.25 million or something like that?
Yeah, it's $120 million.
Oh, $120 million, even more.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely over the $10,000 limit.
Yep, and that was when they first reported suspicious activity. And the thing is, like, they report suspicious activity constantly. Like, suspicious activity reports, they just do it constantly. And then, like, the regulators don't even pay attention unless they have, like, looks like we have, like, 100 from these people. Like, they basically just have to do it if anything is even remotely suspicious to cover their butts. So this seems like clearly they were purposely not.
Yeah, there have been times when I've had like a check deposit, like I've deposited a check that was like not even an insane amount of money, like someone's 1 month of rent in some places, and they'll hold it for, like 14 days or something. Wow. Like I'm some criminal mastermind.
You have to wait till they can figure this out.
Right. They know already. Like, you can just contact the bank. It's an immediate thing. They can contact the bank that it's drawn on and see that it's a good check and then just do it. But they just hold on to it for all that time because, I don't know, suspicious, I guess.
Yeah. And the other thing about it is, like, they probably have to report write a suspicious activity report, because that way they can show that they did so and cover their butts in some way. I doubt that they were like, hey, this is getting suspicious, and now they just were like, all right, and now I'm going to write the report because that will cover my butt in some way, So we have a caller on the line. Caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's your name?
Let's just talk. Hey, how's it going with you guys?
Good.
What's going on with you?
Oh, it's going pretty good. I was just curious about the crazy world that we're watching. I hear that the North Koreans may be sending troops to Ukraine, and just brings up the madness of our world. It seems like it's really coming to a complete conflagration, total disaster. And
I'm just wondering, like, what is there to even do in Ukraine anymore? It seems like they've had to have, like, killed so many people by now, you know?
I feel like
same Gaza. How about Gaza and the rest of the situation? Apparently, we have like 700 bases around the world, the U.S.
Wow.
And I was asking this. There was this Cuban fellow working, and I was talking to him a little bit, and asking about this island off the south coast of Cuba. Said, "What's the deal with that island?" He says there's 7 bases on that island, and of course Hezbollah has a base in Cuba.
I heard that the leader of Hamas was killed.
Yep.
And so now they're saying that the conflict can end.
Yeah.
So
where
they say.
I'm going with this is you take Matthew 24. Kingdoms will rise against kingdoms, nations against nations, wars and rumors of wars in the days of the end. It will be like the days of Noah. There will be people engaging in marrying and life. Basically, the gist of it is that there will be people coming and going and engaging in their lives and marrying and doing all the things that people do in their lives, and then the flood. Of course, he was speaking of Noah and the flood, and that the 8 people went onto the ark. Of course, you know that story. I happen to have major problems with a lot of the story's great. It's a great story, and I just don't know about the. You know, it turns out that maybe you could have perhaps all the species of birds would be like 400 times the volume of the ark.
Yeah.
If you packed them in like sardines.
Yeah.
That's just the bird.
And they do list the actual volume of it, because they say what the exact volume was.
Cubit. It's measured on a cubit, and and so it was a big boat. But
so I'm just saying you could literally calculate that.
Just the birds alone would be 400 times the volume of
the
ark. And then you're not talking about elephants and hippopotamuses and all these big, and lions and tigers and jaguars and
do they explain how all the
species?
Do they explain how all like the predators don't eat the prey animals?
It's a strange story, and it turns out that there were 7 pairs of the clean animals and 2 male and female of the unclean animals. A lot of people think it's 2 by 2. They went on board. It says that they went on board the ark in pairs, male and female, but there were 7 pairs of the clean animals and only 2 of the snakes and the unclean animals. Whichever that would be I suppose the animals like when it speaks about
pigs.
Pigs are
and all these
unclean.
The pigs,
like most
pigs
people.
are unclean
Lobsters.
Anyway. Yeah, and then we get to the age of the Earth. You know, like we have sea fossils up in the elevations of the Andes and the Himalayas, and I suppose the Rocky Mountains, and we have evidence of a very old Earth. So there's a lot to as far as what's what and what's all going on. But what I see in the world today seems to be pretty obvious.
So
we're headed for a major disaster. This is not looking good at all.
The flood myths persist throughout time before Christianity. Like every religion has their version of the flood myths.
The oldest, I don't know if it's the oldest, but one of the oldest stories ever, like that they have discovered, is the Sumerian tablets, and they have a flood story.
Yeah,
It's actually really similar.
So most of them, have a overall
towards
arching
it.
theme of the same stories over and over again, and it's because people write down things to explain what happened. Like, yeah, there was a flood,
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
and so everybody wrote down the same story, and like these things are cyclical.
But more interesting is what's going on today. Like you were saying, it is $10,000 that is monitored by the IRS. Any deposit or withdrawal or expenditure of $10,000. But as far as the government, our government is weaponizing against us. I heard the sea lion was killed in. Near San Francisco. Did you hear about this?
No, a sea lion.
And there was a sea lion that was murdered.
That's sad.
Killed. And this and it's endangered, or it's protected. It's a protected species. So there was a lot of people really upset about it. And so it turns out that the feds, who is it? What is it? No, I think National Ocean and. What is the
SeaWorld?
No, I think he's talking about NOAA. No.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. National Oceanographer. I don't know what the exact.
Is it like National Oceanic and Aviation
NOAA.
Agency, something like
they're
that?
Armed. These guys are armed. So they had their criminal. They call them the criminal division. And they're armed, and you got your postal. People that are armed, and you got your 87,000 IRS agents are armed and all this stuff.
Yep.
I guess talking about it, I guess they're going to monitor me now. So
they're monitoring you already. They're monitoring everyone.
We've got our government talking about getting rid of the First Amendment because they don't want disinformation. They only want their disinformation. They don't want the opposing side disinformation. And it's just. It's all very bad. So and then you hear about these 32 million evangelicals who aren't going to vote or nothing. They're not going to participate in at least what would be an overwhelming vote if they knew how to vote. As far as vote for freedom. You vote against. Sometimes I think we need to vote against things rather than for. We've reached that point where you want to vote for the lesser of two evils, and you want to vote against things and try to get the best thing, or just give up. Most people just say, "Oh, I'm not going to vote."
Wouldn't it be cool if we had an option that wasn't evil?
Yep.
Well, people are flawed. People are flawed. You're gonna find that
anyone who seeks power is corrupted.
Probably people worthy of leadership.
No, there are plenty of people worthy of leadership that don't want it. That's the thing, is the people who want leadership want power, and so therefore they are easily corruptible.
I've been shocked just in my life, just seeing that truth being shown to be true in the smallest of quote unquote power positions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, the smallest, like,
yeah,
I don't even want to say it because it's like giving away who I'm talking about, but there's not just one person. There's tons of people I'm talking about. Think of any like terrible customer service job or whatever that you've ever worked, and like your direct manager, that person. She makes like $5 more an hour than you, and
and suddenly she's like, I'm so important, and like I take my job so seriously, and you all got to listen to me because I know, even though they're not even good at their job or smart, they probably can't spell.
I really think that those the people who get into like the first little level of management are like actually dumber than everyone else, because it's like I like don't stress myself out half as much as you do, and I make like $3 an hour less than you. Like, please, like at Walmart, the people who were like working to become I think they call like CMAs. So like the people that just have a different color vest and work towards the front of the office, and they have to deal with so many problems. They were making like, I don't know, like seriously like $5 an hour more than everyone else. They worked super hard to suck up to get that position, and then tons of them that were like like at least on like nice terms with me and talk to me. Like, we're like, I almost feel like it's not worth it. It's like, yo,
Yeah.
you're only just figuring this out. It's not worth it. Like,
Right.
I just do this job and do Uber Eats if I really need more money.
There are tons of jobs like in grocery stores. A lot of times they'll be like, oh, you're a key cashier. So they'll give you like the key so you can come over and like answer everybody's little stupid problems on their registers and stuff, and they don't pay you anymore.
Wow.
It's
If they
no
weren't paying
raise.
it anymore, I still believe that they could get people to do it just for the power, the key cashier power.
Yeah, because you get like, oh, I got like a little boost. Like, oh, now I'm important.
Well, thank you so much for the call, Doug. I'm glad that people, I love when people call in and get their thoughts on the air. I pulled up an article that I almost brought in for show prep, but I wasn't really sure that I had much to say about it, but I wanted to talk about what Doug was talking about at the beginning. He said this article from Daily Express US says, satellite pics show North Korean troops heading to Ukraine in chilling World War III escalation.
They've been saying since the beginning of these two conflicts, Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Gaza, since the very beginning of like any conflict blowing up, they've been saying this is going to be World War III. Like they've just been putting it out there this whole time.
That's basically
I think
what
they're
makes me,
finally
like,
getting it.
That's what kind of makes me end up never really bringing in show prep about the two situations, because it's like, I feel like I might have said this out loud when I was looking for show prep right before the show. I was like, I just feel like there's no way you can know what the truth is about any of this stuff, and it's all just made to scare you. But
And I can't do anything about it.
yeah,
I can't do anything to stop it from happening. If this is going to happen and it's going to create World War III and the entire world is going to suffer, I can't stop it from happening, unfortunately.
all you can do is like the things that we find more important, like, you know, like with you educating your kids and with people doing stuff like, it's way more important to be doing stuff like prepping than it is to be doing stuff like worrying about World War III and reading articles on the internet about it.
And
building community.
Also live your life and like be happy. Don't live in this constant worry like, oh, what's happening with all these things that I can't do anything about and I can't change, because all you're doing is let's say 3 weeks from now we all die, like you wasted all of those 3 weeks that you could have been enjoying yourself and like loving your family and your friends and stuff like that with worrying about what's going to happen that you can't stop.
And they always seem to want to get people into a state of like fear to make bad decisions in order to convince them to let us get more escalated and involved in wars.
Well, that, and the more fearful you are, the more you need daddy government to protect you from those fears, and the more power you give them.
Yep.
And then, you know, they'll backslide it slightly when the conflict is over, but never back to where it was.
Yep. All true. Well, that's just like kind of like, I feel like it's a good asterisk before we talk about any kind of war stuff, but here's what they're talking about. This satellite pictures do say that they're showing North Korean troops, which I've never even heard of. Like, I had no idea I mean, I'm sure they have a military for defense, but I had no idea they go into other countries and help them out. Anyways, says South Korea's National Intelligence Service said that Russian Navy ships transferred the group North Korean soldiers, I guess the group of North Korean soldiers, to the port city of Vladivostok from October 8th to October 13th. Chilling satellite images show the first North Korean troops being sent to Russia to join the war against Ukraine. According to South Korea's National Intelligence Service, Kim Jong-un, has dispatched 1,500 troops to aid Putin's conflict. The soldiers were reportedly moved by Russian Navy ships to Vladivostok between October 8th and October 13th.
Why does Russia need more troops from North Korea against Ukraine? That doesn't make any sense.
They probably killed a lot of people.
Yeah, in Ukraine, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like, of their own people too.
Well,
they probably like got into like a limit, at least before they start forcing a bunch of people.
I feel like they have so many more people than Ukraine, though. Like,
but Ukraine's gotten so much
weird.
help from other countries.
That's true.
I don't know that Russia hasn't gotten more help or like help from other countries, but I haven't like heard about it as much. Maybe China's helping them. I really don't know if Chinese are there like fighting on the side of Russians though.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't followed along too much because, like I said, I can't do anything about it.
It says that they were outfitted with Russian military gear, weapons, and falsified IDs. How would you even know that from just a picture of... See? That's where I start asking questions. Like, we're talking about, satellite images. I guess maybe South Korea's National Intelligence Service is the one that knew that information. But anyways, these troops are currently stationed at military bases in Vladivostok, Usyuriksk, sorry, and Khabarovsk. I don't know. It would take me some more time, and I don't want to spend all the time, so I'm not going to read the last two names of these. So, I'm just going to get it wrong. Ones I've never seen before in Russia. It says undergoing training before likely deployment to the front lines. Satellite imagery provided by the NIS, that was South Korea's National Intelligence Service, shows Russian ship movements near a North Korean port in what appeared to be Pyongyang. I've always just guessed that was Pyongyang.
I think that's how you say that, yeah.
There are troops gathering in those two names of Russian cities over the past week. So in these pictures, you can't really tell what the heck is going on. I'll put this link in the... I'm going to put it on... It's going to tweet out of Free Talk Live's Twitter, but I'm not getting much from the pictures in order to even tell you what I'm looking at. It's like satellite pictures, like it said. Super far away, super low quality. Maybe people who are trained in looking at satellite images all day are able to tell exactly what's going on there, but it says additional North Korean forces are anticipated to be sent to Russia shortly. This development follows Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky's statement that his government has intelligence on 10,000 North Korean soldiers being readied to join Russian forces. Wow, so that's a little bit of, two different sides saying the same thing, evidence that might be happening. From our intelligence, we've got information that North Korea sent tactical personnel and officers to Ukraine, Zelensky declared, cautioning that further international involvement could escalate the situation into a world war.
What would be the point of the fake IDs?
Yeah, I have no idea what would be the point. Maybe that just means they're here's some identifications so you can be operating in Russia while you're here. And they were oh, it's falsified. They're not, I don't know.
They're Russia. They could just do whatever they want.
Yeah, I don't know. That was just a guess, but yeah, why would they be falsified? Would they need to say something completely else? Yeah, here's your fake American IDs. That makes no sense. 603-283-6160 is the phone number. You can call in Doug and Dave Ridley have and bring up whatever's on your mind. It's Free Talk Live. There are no taboo topics here. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Sally Patterson with a look back at some of the week's top stories. Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, who was behind the October 7th attacks, has been killed in Gaza. Sinwar, who was jailed by the Israelis for decades, had become the movement's most powerful figure in the months since Hamas's attack on Israel. Israeli officials examined dental images and DNA evidence to identify the body. The Hamas leader was killed by Israeli forces on Wednesday. Iran called Sinwar's death a source of inspiration for resistance fighters. Our US correspondent Simon Marks reports.
Mr. Sinwar was seen here in Washington as the key figure representing Hamas in now defunct talks about a possible ceasefire and release of hostages. He was well known to the Israelis, having spent decades in their jails and becoming friendly in jail with at least one Israeli who would go on to become a key negotiator with Hamas. On several occasions previously, Mr. Sinwar was reported to have been killed, only later to have shown up alive and still in charge in Gaza.
David Mencer is a spokesperson for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He says Sinwar's killing does not mean the end of the war.
The mission is not over yet. It is certainly, as the Prime Minister said, the first day of the day after Hamas, we think. But our mission will not end until we bring all of our 101 hostages home now. Hamas need to set them free.
The United States described Sinwar's death as a good day for Israel and the world. Meanwhile, the US has demanded Israel boost aid access to Gaza and warned failure to do so would risk cutting off some US military assistance. Benji Hire reports.
This letter amounts to the strongest known written warning yet from the White House, urging the Israeli government to allow for a greater distribution of aid in Gaza for at least the next 4 months. Israel's ground offensive has forced millions of Palestinians to evacuate their homes to temporary camps, exposing them to dangerous diseases.
Earlier this week, former One Direction singer Liam Payne was found dead in Argentina at the age of 31. Local officials say he fell from the balcony of his hotel room in Buenos Aires. Staff at the hotel had requested urgent police assistance shortly before Payne's death. They were concerned about an aggressive man who, quote, could be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. In a statement, Payne's former bandmates said they were taking some time to grieve and process their loss. Showbiz reporter in LA, Sean Mandel, says fans had been hoping for a One Direction reunion.
So many people will have grown up with One Direction, will have grown up with the music of them and can still vividly remember where they were and how they felt when the band broke up. Payne was in Argentina, actually, to see his fellow One Directioner, Niall Horan, perform at a concert in Argentina. And moments like that did give people hope that there may someday be a One Direction reunion.
UK inflation has fallen to an annual rate of 1.7, its lowest in over 3 years. It raises expectations the Bank of England will cut interest rates further in November. Fuel and airfare costs dropped significantly in the latest data, though there was a jump in grocery inflation. Markets analyst David Buick says the numbers surprised investors.
They're taking into account the cost of food having possibly come down, clothing, and also petrol. Core inflation, which is ex-petrol, tobacco and other areas of that nature, is down from 3.6% to 3.2%. That is also a very significant drop.
China's economy grew at the slowest pace since early 2023 in the 3 months to September, according to data released on Friday. The property sector remains a big challenge for Beijing as it tries to boost growth. Meanwhile, the Smithsonian National Zoo in Washington, D.C. welcomed 2 giant pandas from China as the panda diplomacy between both countries resumes. Laura Westbrook reports.
Bao Li and Qing Bao are both 3 years old. They left southwest China for their new home. They are the first pandas from China to arrive in the US capital in 24 years. The zoo's panda exhibit had been empty for 11 months, since the last 3 wildly popular pandas were sent back to China. China's renewed panda diplomacy with the US is a rare bright spot in relations between the world's 2 superpowers. Tensions have risen over trade, technology, and geopolitics. Laura Westbrook, Hong Kong.
That's your roundup of news making headlines this week. Sally Patterson reporting.
Coming up a little later, the 10 best careers for someone at your level of attractiveness.
Oh, but right now we have something truly incredible for you. Kenneth Quinn is a real-life psychic medium who claims that he can communicate with dead acquaintances. He's written a new book. It's called Small Talk from Beyond, Speaking with Distant Relatives and Friends of Friends Who Have Passed.
Hi,
Good
Kenneth.
to see you. Now, Kenneth, you've written that you're able to connect people with the spirits of their old college professors or roommates that they didn't really know that well. When did you realize that you had this gift?
Well, it was the day after my cousin's friend's wife's funeral. I was at home and I suddenly felt a presence in the room with me. And I heard a voice say, "It's Vicky. Vicky Solchek, Dale's wife."
Wow.
We made a Tim's birthday thing a while back, and we talked about how hard it is having a cat.
Fascinating.
This has been so amazing.
This has been fabulous. Thank you, Kenneth Quinn, for being our guest. Stay with us because coming up next, we're going to show you how to lose some of that excessive weight by constantly picking at your skin.
This is the Onion News Network.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. You can call up or call in with whatever's on your mind, and there's no topic or anything set. You can call in with whatever you want to talk about. 603-283-6160. And Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. In addition to being one of the world's first cryptocurrencies, Dash was the first crypto project with a decentralized autonomous organization that to this day continues to improve and promote Dash. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month for this sponsorship. It's easy to get and use Dash. You can learn more at dash.org. That's dash.org. And with you on Free Talk Live, tonight you've got me, Bonnie.
And Lori.
And Lori, you brought in a story about a lawsuit that somebody has started against their city maybe, or their police officers in their city for the fact that they got a DUI without even being drunk. It really hits close to home because that kind of happened to me.
Yep.
I just didn't get the DUI.
So this is from KOLD.com, which I assume is their local affiliate news station. It's Monroe County, Tennessee.
Monroe County.
Angela Manis was not having it. On the morning of December 29th, 2023, the Monroe County mother was driving on US 411 when she passed her son Thomas while he was being arrested by the Tennessee Highway Patrol. Body camera footage shows Manis parked on the shoulder of the road ahead of the traffic stop and begins to approach. One of the troopers, Riley Schreiner, cautions her to get back in her vehicle, which she does. When Schreiner comes to the side of Manis's window, she asks why her son has been arrested. "For driving under the influence, ma'am," Schreiner says in the video. "He has not been drinking, sir," Manis responds, explaining that her son had just woken up. Moments later, Manis warns the trooper. "I'm just saying, if you have falsely arrested him, you're going to be in trouble," she said. "Okay, ma'am," Schreiner said.
She put her money where her mouth was. That's great.
"I promise you, because I know my son," Manis said. What followed would result in a federal lawsuit against Schreiner and veteran DUI officer Trooper William Billy Yates Matoy,
Veteran
hyphenated.
Ugly. Veteran at, getting people in trouble
Mm-hmm.
in any way he can without even being honest about what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. As blood work would later show that Thomas Mannis was sober at the time of his arrest. Body camera footage of the arrest obtained by WSMV4 Investigates also shows Trooper Schreiner turning off the audio on his body camera, including when
Wow.
a tow truck driver asked if Mannis was drunk.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wonder why.
that's not shady at all.
Yeah, I wonder why you would not want your response to be answered or recorded. Well, just turning it off in general, they shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be allowed to do that or able to.
No, they should not be. Like once it should be like a constant feed. Once it's put on, that's it.
It should
No
be like
shutting
a
off.
feed on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And it's totally possible. It's 2024.
They'd probably be like, oh, but we need privacy for when we go to the bathroom or whatever. Wear a skirt. I don't know. Do something.
I was gonna say maybe it can be turned off while they go to the bathroom. Like,
I'm sure they could figure out something.
yeah, like maybe. But the thing is, I don't think they should have the ability to turn it off.
No,
it should be like it automatically turns off when they enter the bathroom area of the hospital, not the hospital, the freaking
Police
office.
station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, if they have to pee and they're out at their donut shop
or something, there could be some kind of thing that goes like around their waist that can flip up or something. There could be some way to avoid that.
Oh, funny, like a police skirt.
And no pooping on the clock because that's stealing from the taxpayers.
Poop on your own time.
That's right. A spokesman for the THP said they could not comment because of the pending lawsuit. Scott Canavos, the attorney for Mannis, said he could not comment beyond what is stated in the lawsuit and would not allow his client to be interviewed. According to the body camera, Schreiner pulled over Mannis because the tint on his windows was too dark. Have you had anything to drink at all? Schreiner asks. No, sir, Mannis responds. When Schreiner returns to his call, he tells Trooper Yates Matoy, who is sitting in the passenger seat, that he doesn't smell any marijuana. After Schreiner reads out Mannis's name out loud, Yates Matoy says he knows Mannis's brother.
So it might have been personal.
Probably got weed. Probably high, Yates Matoy said. Guarantee he smoked weed today.
He said all that at the traffic stop?
He said it. So when the trooper went back to the car to talk to him, that's when he said it. Not in front of Thomas Mannis.
Oh.
But in their like side conversation
Wow.
in the cruiser.
It seems to be that he actually has some kind of something against the family or the brother, because he's like, I know the brother.
Yeah.
And now, just from after that, right after saying that, the next thing he says is probably got weed.
Yeah.
Maybe that other brother, maybe the brother got in trouble with weed before or something.
Yeah. It's the same thing that like teachers did in school. Like, oh, I knew your brother. I knew your
You
sister.
better not be, a troublemaker.
Which is insane. That's an insane leap of reasoning.
Yeah.
Like me and my sister are polar opposites as human beings. You
Me
would never like personality wise guess that we were related in any way. Totally different values, totally different views, everything. So like to say, oh, well, I know his brother, so he probably is the same way is crazy.
Teachers, never mind. We could
It
go
gives
into
only child energy. The statement the second time WSMV4 Investigates had documented in our sobering problems investigation in which an officer assumes the driver is drunk and arrests him for a DUI, only later to learn the driver had been sober the entire time. Oh, so this isn't even the first time. The body camera video shows Schreiner returns once more to question Mannis. What makes you think I'm under the influence of anything? Mannis asks. You've got slightly red eyes and a highly red hue around your eyes, Schreiner said.
Wow.
I just woke up, Mannis responds. Mannis then undergoes a field
And
sobriety.
then his mom, says the same thing. So
Yeah, that he
should've
just
been
woke
like,
up.
Oh, that's, solid
Or
evidence.
like, what if you have allergies? Like that's
What if your eyes are just always like that? Ian, literally, I'm not joking, has these red veins like sticking out of his eyes at all times that I kind of believe may have gotten damaged because of all the weed smoking he did. Like, maybe it doesn't happen to everyone, but I'm just like, why are your eyes so incredibly bloodshot at all times? And I think it's because he used to be high at all times. Maybe his
Well,
eyes are sensitive to that.
What if you just have dry eyes?
Yeah, but like,
What if you
anything.
What if you just put in your contacts and like they rubbed your eye the wrong way? Like so many reasons why your eyes can be red. That's not a reason to arrest somebody.
Yeah, it's not actual evidence. And especially
Of
when
anything.
his mom shows right up behind him and says, my son just woke up, so he can't have been drinking. You should be like, oh, well, now we have like a basically solid answer. But no, they don't trust the average person. They just believe we're all out to do bad.
Well, I think even beyond that, like they decided when they when they had that little side conversation, they already decided that this guy is going to get arrested, and that's it.
Yep.
And they pre-decide, like they will arrest people and then they'll throw all these whatever charges that don't mean anything on top of you and then see which ones they can get to stick. They do it all the time. So Maness then undergoes a field sobriety test conducted by Schreiner with Yates Matoy watching. His last name is annoying.
It's like, did he take his wife's last name? Because I don't really know that many grown men that have hyphenated last names. Because even if like maybe your parents hyphenated your last name, I don't know. I feel like a normal, for the most part, grown men don't have hyphenated last names.
Imagine if like his parents hyphenated their last name and he has it, and then him and his wife hyphenated their last name, so her last name is like triple hyphenated.
Oh my god. I feel like if I had a hyphenated last name and I grew up, it'd just be simpler to
just change it.
Choose one.
Or like mash them together and make a new one. You can pick anything you want for your last name. You can just go change it into whatever.
That's what Ian did.
Yeah. According to the lawsuit, Maness successfully passed all the field sobriety tests, but the body camera footage shows Yates Matoy turning his thumb down repeatedly. Yates Matoy, who is a decorated DUI enforcement officer, then begins to question Maness. "When's the last time you smoked marijuana?" Yates Matoy asked. "Not anytime soon. I'd say probably about 4 years ago," Maness said. Yates Matoy then asks, "If I did a blood test on you right now, you would come back clear," Maness responds. The troopers then instruct Maness to sit on the bumper while they go talk at the back of the vehicle.
You can't just do a blood test on him on the side of the road. Just trying to scare him and...
No, but they can arrest you and take you to the hospital for a blood test.
Wow, that's so annoying.
Yeah, like against your will.
Wow.
At that point, Schreiner turns off the audio on his body camera, which remains off for 30 seconds as he talks to Yates Matoy.
Wow.
Maness is visibly astonished when he is then arrested and put in the back of the trooper's vehicle. "Is there any way to do a breathalyzer?" Maness asks. We don't do breathalyzers, sir," Schreiner said.
Wow.
Our sobering problem investigation.
Is in my experience, you can do a breathalyzer and it says 000, and they will say, well, we still are going to take you anyway.
Yeah, because they're liars.
Yeah.
It's not because that, like, the breathalyzer is wrong.
That's what they acted like, but obviously they were like, well, you smell like alcohol, so, and there was literally no possible way that I smelled like alcohol.
No, they just decided that this guy, his brother, had interactions with getting arrested for weed. And so they decided that this guy also smokes weed. And they were like, we're going to arrest him and then we're going to blood test him and come up with weed, and then we can just charge him with driving under the influence of weed.
Yeah, because
even if he's not, because it'll be in there for 30 days or whatever.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly what it was.
So our sobering problem investigation revealed outrage from sober drivers when they found out that some police departments don't use breathalyzers. Maness's mother asks the same question.
I'm not outraged. It's like they don't need the breathalyzer to come up with a lie to arrest you.
Yeah, and how can you arrest somebody for driving under the influence if you have zero proof that they're driving under the influence?
His eyes were red.
His eyes were red. Like, he passed, the body cam footage shows that he passed all of the sobriety tests. They don't do a breathalyzer on him. They don't smell any weed. There's nothing. They don't smell alcohol on him. And still they arrest him.
They literally said too, like, I don't smell any weed.
Did you give him a breathalyzer? She asks. No, we don't do breathalyzers, Schreiner said. Did you give him this is not right, she said. How can you do this? Our investigation found that police departments feel blood tests are the best option, as they will show both alcohol and drugs. But a backlog at the TBI means people are waiting months to get the results, losing jobs and insurance while waiting.
Yeah,
that
you're
is
waiting
insane.
In prison or jail.
That's insane.
Yeah.
You get arrested and you're waiting months for these results to come back, and you lose your job and you lose your insurance and you lose like all these things, and then they come back and they're like, just kidding. We were just profiling you and deciding that you were under the influence, even though you were totally innocent this whole time. Sorry, we destroyed your life and you have no recourse.
They should have to lose their jobs for that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
One time you lose your job. That's it. Like if I had a job where someone's literal life was on the line, like their whole livelihood, and I messed up, any regular job that's not working for the government,
like a nurse or something,
and I messed up, I'd lose my job.
Yeah.
After Maness is arrested and a tow truck driver arrives to take his car, the driver can be heard saying to Schreiner, was he drunk? Once again, Schreiner turns off the audio when he responds.
He's probably saying like, no, I'm just going to arrest him and I'm sure he's a pothead, and then it's going to come up dirty.
Yeah. I'm sure that's exactly what he said. WSMV4 Investigates has filed an open records request for the THP's policy for turning off body camera audio and why the department no longer uses breathalyzers. So I would also like to, I feel like the saying that we're no longer going to use breathalyzers is simply to try and get people on weed charges from smoking weed a month ago because they just want to arrest the person. It's another one of those throw stuff at them.
They could have even smoked weed just 3 days ago. That's still not a crime.
Right.
Yeah.
And unless you're driving under the influence.
It's not like the drug test will be able to tell you how many days before.
No, they cannot. They can't tell. It's just that whole story is insane. The fact that I'm sure that these officers still have their jobs, because it didn't say in there that they got fired.
Is the lawsuit still ongoing?
It's still ongoing. Yep, it's still ongoing. So we don't know. I'm going to follow this story, though, because I'm really interested to see if there's any repercussions for them, because I doubt there will be.
Well, I agree, because the cops have been just getting away with, the entire time the cops have been a thing and existed, they've been getting away with tormenting people, making them lose their jobs, killing people, all kinds of things. And they have no repercussions because they have qualified immunity.
So I was living in Oregon and I was dating this guy, and we were a licensed medical marijuana growing facility, right?
Oh.
And so we had a license and all of that stuff, and the cops knew because it was like a super small town.
Mm-hmm.
So they know who we are. And we're driving down the street one day, and there was these kids playing in the road. So he goes around, crosses the line to go around so he doesn't hit the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And the cop pulls him over right there. And he's like, "Why'd you go over the yellow line?" He's like, "Because I didn't want to run over the kids." And he's like, "Oh, okay. So where's the weed?" And he was like, "Not in the car."
Wow.
So he had us sat there on the side of the road interrogating us forever. Didn't get anything because we didn't have anything with us. But that's what they do. They will pull you over for anything. They will try to get you on anything. They will harass you for no good reason. We were legit, had licenses and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't matter.
Wow.
Yep.
That's just freak behavior. I hate these people. 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And Sarah from New Mexico is on the line. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live. What is on your mind tonight?
Oh, I'm so excited that we're getting the Route 790 bus route back. It was like that. Excuse me. More of the rapid transit. The one that goes real fast. It only stops every half mile.
I didn't know Albuquerque had anything like that. That's not a rail thing, is it? Or is it a bus with wheels?
Yeah, it's a bus, but
it's a bus that goes super fast, and Sarah's for it.
I'm shocked. Yeah, honestly, I have never heard of this. I only know as far as super fast public transit, I think of the things on rails, not a bus that drives. What if someone gets in front of you or they get to a red light?
Right.
Well, it's fast because it only stops every half a mile. For somebody that wants to commute, the regular bus would take a whole hour.
I see. There's just fewer stops.
Mm-hmm. So it's not really super fast. So. It just doesn't have as many stops.
That makes sense.
So it went to Cottonwood Mall, and then now it's rerouted to the west side. So that they had a bus shortage. And it was just announced, so I'm just really excited. And what's happening, what I noticed is that that mall stop was more of the a wealthier part of the neighborhood. So the west side is more of the poor people live. So they're having the bus routed to there. Because I think that it brought out a lot of homeless people to that mall stop. I think that's what's happening. The Rio Rancho. So I was looking at the map, and it goes out to west side, and there's more poor people live, and I guess they're kind of used to accommodating the homeless.
Mm-hmm.
I have to look at the route, but I think that's how they route it. So that all these rich people, they want to keep the homeless people out of their neighborhood. So that's how they do it.
How do you feel about that?
Well, what can I do about it? Because there's a route on tramway they could put that goes to a casino, but they got like $1 million homes that way, so they make sure there's no bus stops. So I don't know how these people work it. So the homeless people catch the last bus out, and what do? They sleep out, and then they make a home out over there, and then they come back on the bus to eat downtown.
Yeah, they do seem to congregate around bus stops.
Really? And then they could build camps around the neighborhood? Is that how it is? They build homes to come at night if it's consistent?
I don't know what it is. I would have thought you would know the answer to this. I just see homeless people standing around bus stops a lot. Maybe it's just a thing to do.
They do it over there at New Hampshire too, don't they? Don't they have more? They run you off or something?
No, I have lived other places, but also I've also seen people just kind of congregating around bus stops, even in New Hampshire. But the thing is, in the city I live in, it's really small, so like most of the homeless people are just straight up in the center of town in this gazebo.
Oh, there's a gazebo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I know the homeless people, what they're doing now is that we have this city service aid. It's part of the mental health department. They're not the police. And what they do is, I saw one guy getting jacked up, and they all came down, and they were checking him out, and they came out with a stretcher. I guess he was so intoxicated. He was sitting at the bus stop. They were going to put him on the gurney and take him to like a sober, like a drunk place. So they're not criminals. You know what I mean? I mean, so they don't want to put the cops and put them in jail.
Yeah, well, and the reason that they have those people now is because the cops end up shooting people who are having mental health issues instead of actually helping them.
Yeah, that's not their. So their whole thing is to help them out.
Right.
Okay, what do you need? Do you need to sober up? Do you need a place we're going to get you trying to get you some housing instead of like
shooting
handcuffing them, beating them up, and all the rest of it, getting into conversation. So that's what we got now. But you know what? You're right. Anywhere there's a bus service, I don't know if it's going to be every hour, if it's going to be a weekend service. So there's a way for homeless people to actually encamp in those neighborhoods. They could go like a mile away and start pitching tents or whatever. And that part of the west side is more of a low income place where people could kind of tolerate this. They know that the wealthy people don't want to see any of it, don't feel them, they don't want it.
They want to be the victim of crimes.
I'm not wealthy. I also don't want homeless around my house.
Yeah.
I don't want needles or like feces or any of that. I want crime. I don't want any of that near my house.
There's that guy that used your address to like order pizza.
Yeah, just ordering stuff to my house, like your DoorDashes to my house, homeless guy. Why would you not use like the coffee place or like one of the stores? There's so many businesses around me. Just use one of those. Why would you use my house?
So weird. That was kind of creepy.
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, well, I don't know. We voted for the homeless bomb. We all said we need to build one, but all of the neighborhoods, they fought it off. They said, we don't want to hear. Why don't you put it over there? It's like always like, no, don't make it don't put it in my backyard. Put it over over there.
I think what's worse than like people not wanting homeless people in their literal front yards is there are plenty of stories like this, but one specific to Keene is there's a forest or woods behind this grocery store called Hannaford, and the Hannaford owner said they were fine with the homeless people living there, and the cops still just decided we're gonna go break up the homeless camp over there. It's like, why? You just basically sent them to Keene downtown.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
and all over the place. Like they're down by the river, just all over, when they could have just had a place right there all together.
Yep, where they were actually like totally allowed to be. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 13th through the 16th for the 8th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Forkfest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which has sold out in recent years. Forkfest happens the weekend before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Forkfest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 13th through the 16th. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 13th through the 16th. Forkfest.party.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Sally Patterson with a look back at some of the week's top stories. Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, who was behind the October 7th attacks, has been killed in Gaza. Sinwar, who was jailed by the Israelis for decades, had become the movement's most powerful figure in the months since Hamas's attack on Israel. Israeli officials examined dental images and DNA evidence to identify the body. The Hamas leader was killed by Israeli forces on Wednesday. Iran called Sinwar's death a source of inspiration for resistance fighters. Our US correspondent Simon Marks reports.
Mr. Sinwar was seen here in Washington as the key figure representing Hamas in now defunct talks about a possible ceasefire and release of hostages. He was well known to the Israelis, having spent decades in their jails and becoming friendly in jail with at least one Israeli who would go on to become a key negotiator with Hamas. On several occasions previously, Mr. Sinwar was reported to have been killed, only later to have shown up alive and still in charge in Gaza.
David Mentzer is a spokesperson for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He says Sinwar's killing does not mean the end of the war.
The mission is not over yet. It is certainly, as the Prime Minister said, the first day of the day after Hamas, we think. But our mission will not end until we bring all of our 101 hostages home.
The United States described Sinwar's death as a good day for Israel and the world. Meanwhile, the US has demanded Israel boost aid access to Gaza and warned failure to do so would risk cutting off some US military assistance. Benji Hire reports.
This letter amounts to the strongest known written warning yet from the White House, urging the Israeli government to allow for a greater distribution of aid in Gaza for at least the next 4 months. Israel's ground offensive has forced millions of Palestinians to evacuate their homes to temporary camps, exposing them to dangerous diseases.
Earlier this week, former One Direction singer Liam Payne was found dead in Argentina at the age of 31. Local officials say he fell from the balcony of his hotel room in Buenos Aires. Staff at the hotel had requested urgent police assistance shortly before Payne's death. They were concerned about an aggressive man who, quote, could be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. In a statement, Payne's former bandmates said they were taking some time to grieve and process their loss. Showbiz reporter in LA, Sean Mandel, says fans had been hoping for a One Direction reunion.
So many people will have grown up with One Direction, will have grown up with the music of them and can still vividly remember where they were and how they felt when the band broke up.
That's your roundup of news making headlines this week. Sally Patterson reporting.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Lori.
And, I forgot to pull it up or anything, but I would like to thank the amplifiers for being in support of Free Talk Live. Ken is an amplifier I'd like to specifically thank. Thank you so much to Ken for being an amplifier. That means that he went to amps.freetalklive.com. That's amps.freetalklive.com to find out what perks and benefits he could get for being a supporter of the show. And thank you again to everyone who supports the show. And Ken, we really appreciate people who help us continue this radio show, Free Talk Live. It's all about helping people not support themselves, I meant to say helping people express themselves and use their free speech. Most other radio shows that do phone callings are not so open and letting anybody on, and they have taboo topics, etc., and they'll scan your call and just be like, yeah, no thanks, you can't get on tonight. But not us. So caller, unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
It's your boy.
Oh, wow.
Capitalist.
Wow. Never seen you call from a New York number, I think it is.
What happened to Peakless? Did he secede from the show?
Yeah. What's on your mind, Skeeter?
What happened to Peakless? Did he secede?
He did. He seceded from the show.
That's an example of bilateral secession where both parties agree.
Yep.
And he doesn't try to take the chair he was sitting on and the microphone he was using.
Bonnie also didn't require him to pay her an exit fee.
Yeah.
Yeah, because his net worth wasn't over $2 million, right?
It might be. I don't know.
But if he was using let's say he was using the microphone and the chair to make a living, Bonnie might be entitled to a fee. Wouldn't you agree?
I would, unless I wrote that into a contract, I would not ask for it. People can make their own. I mean, they can make a living with permission to use
what if he was
the studio stuff. If they already have the permission and it not affect me and like I need to take money from them. But that's
what if he was born on his chair?
Then you throw the chair away because it's gross.
That is gross.
No, what if he's born on the chair and he makes a living using the microphone and he lives on the chair?
I think he really thinks he's making serious points about like countries, as if the Free Talk Live shows run just like a country, and so it's not the same thing.
Isn't it? No, I'm putting it in terms of analogy. What if he's
it's a bad analogy. You can't make everything an analogy.
That's the only kind he makes.
I can't say.
You were born
the
on
way that
land, but this is.
Lions live in the wild. It's just like us, right? It's just like us in every way.
How come you? But anyways, this is not really what I want to talk about. But how come you're avoiding the question?
You always do that. You always.
What if he's born on the chair?
What
if you called?
Anything.
What if you called and talked about what you actually wanted to talk about?
If he's born on this chair, would not mean that he gets to be on the show no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. But what if he makes a living using your microphone? Like, let's say he runs a radio station using the microphone that he's born in, or the chair and microphone that he's born in.
There would totally be an example, a situation, a possibility that he makes a living using this microphone and that he just doesn't want to do it anymore and he leaves, and I say, I don't need anything from you. What's so confusing about that to you? I would not necessarily have to ask him for money for it. Like, you're just making an assumption.
Yeah, so let's say he uses electricity and stuff before he
probably would have, right? if he was using electricity in my house to do anything, make money or not, I would be charging him. And then when he stopped, I would just say, okay, now you have ceased, and that's it. What's so hard about this? I'm sorry, you've never done anything with other people and like charged anybody for anything. It's like not that complicated.
He still owes you for the public goods used, right? Did you drive on the roads?
If he legitimately...
Did you drive on the roads?
No. If he legitimately used something that he agreed to pay and was behind on paying it, he would just pay off what he paid before leaving. It's not the same thing at all.
It's kind of like an exit fee, isn't it?
It's literally not. It's literally not paying millions of dollars just to not have to be forced to use something in the future is not the same thing. I'm not saying, Lee, Peakless Mountaineer, you are not going to be using my microphone anymore, so therefore you have to pay me like $5,000 that you would have possibly used. That's way more like it. So, okay, are you done making a bad analogy? Because I just destroyed it.
No.
All right, bye. I don't want to talk to somebody who just like can't have a conversation. It's just too stupid. And the other thing is, we allow 1 call per night. So if you call in and talk for over 5 minutes about something that's not the thing you want to talk about, you might get hung up on before you get to talk about what you wanted to talk about, because
I even gave him a chance. I was like, what did you actually want to talk about? Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah.
Still didn't do it.
It's just boring. Oh my God, his calls are so boring, and he wonders why, like, Arya said she's going to stop answering him.
It's because it's the same thing every single time.
Yep. And it's not an honest conversation when he's asking, like, well, isn't that like that? And I'm like, no, and here's why. And he's like, yes, it is. And it's like, okay, interesting. Wow, so cool. Like, you totally made a point when you, like, didn't at all. So this is from The Hill, thehill.com. Japanese Americans blast Trump for comparing January 6 rioters to World War II internment camps. Honestly, I don't see what there is to blast about that. Like, these people have been put in, some of them, I don't know about all of them, some of these people were put into solitary confinement for, like, over a whole entire year without being charged with anything. Yeah.
I did not know that they were put in solitary. That's insane. That's cruelty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought that there were, like, some type of protections for that kind of thing to keep it from happening.
Mm-hmm.
Putting people in solitary for no good reason.
Oh.
But I guess not.
Doesn't really seem like it. Like, people get put into solitary for no reason all the time. Like, Ross Ulbricht has just been, he's spent, like, I don't know, maybe, like, a good portion, I don't know, of his time in solitary confinement. They don't have to have a reason. It's just, well, the prison's on lockdown.
That's insane.
He'll be in there for months at a time.
That's so cruel.
Mm-hmm.
That is torture.
Yeah.
Secluding a person. Human beings are social animals. Like, even me, I'm kind of like an introvert, and I am fine with, like, just myself. But sometimes I want to interact with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And if I just wasn't able to, that would be terrible.
And just like your
family. For years.
Yeah.
Awful.
Even if you don't want to, like, go out and talk to people, you probably interact with your family every single day.
Every single day, whether I want to or not.
Yep. And if you were forced not to, it's like one of the most torturous things ever.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like, I'm not downplaying the World War II Japanese internment camps, but they weren't actually as bad as, like, the internment camps of the Jews in Germany. Like, it was terrible. It's horrible what happened, that they were taken from their homes and put into camps and made to live, like, way too close to each other. I read this book, it's like something Smiling Faces, or my face, I don't remember, I'll pull it up. It was really interesting, so sad, about this girl in Washington State who was a Japanese American, and her family got sent to the internment camps. And it wasn't like no being fed and you're going to be forced into labor. It was just terrible. It's like being in a prison. Like, you're forced in these cramped conditions with other families. And, like, she talked about, like, hearing some of the, like, grown neighbors having sex and stuff. Oh, it's so awful, like, disgusting and terrible. But I don't see why it's like you can't even begin to make that comparison to the January 6 people. They're also in prison. They're put in prison.
Yeah. Also in prison.
I mean, one big thing that is a big difference is these people were in prison for even just remotely standing up to the government, just barely making, it's like activism, like going into making a point. And then those people were in internment camps for just being Japanese.
Okay, so I'm not, like, super invested in the January 6th thing. I watched some videos of it, and it seemed really, really mild and, like, orderly. Like, people just walking through and being shown the way in.
Being silly, like...
Yeah, being silly. Like, nobody was screaming or
They were literally let in.
Yeah, they were let in and, like, guided through and stuff like that. And it didn't seem like there was, like, a huge ruckus. The place wasn't destroyed. It didn't get burned down. Like, none of that happened. I don't know why they keep calling it a riot and why people are still talking about it.
Yeah. People are so serious about it too. Like, they act like it was
protest.
Like, we should all know it's like one of the worst things that ever happened.
It's a protest. If you want to call it a thing, it would be a protest. It's not a riot. Riot is when, like, people are throwing TVs through store windows and burning the buildings down and, like, beating people in the streets and stuff like that. That's a riot.
Like violence, yeah.
Violence.
But yeah, I would call it exactly the same thing, just like protest, activism. That's all they did. But at the end of the day, it is worse to be put in prison just for simply being Japanese. So maybe you could say you can't compare it there, but it's still...
That's probably what their problem with it is.
Yeah.
Is like, we were punished racially, or not racially, but like because of who we are.
Yeah.
And not because of something we did.
Yeah. It says Japanese American civil rights leaders and advocates, which I didn't even know was like a thing, criticized former President Trump for comparing rioters who breached the Capitol on January 6, 2021, to those held in internment camps during World War II. It's flat out offensive. It's a night and day difference what happened. David Inu, that's my best guess, executive director of the Japanese American Citizens League, said in a statement to the Washington Post, Japanese Americans' whole families were incarcerated without any sort of trial. Their own crime was that they were of Japanese descent.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand their point there. Like, it's not the same thing. So to make such a comparison is not really apt.
Yeah.
It's not the right comparison to make.
It's just not so far out that I feel like it's night and day, because it's like these people were also put into prison for no good reason at all. No good reason.
I just would never I would never get all up in arms about it either.
Yeah.
Say something horrible happened to my family and then somebody compared something not horrible to that. I'd just be like, well, that's wrong. And then I'd move on.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get so
you didn't lose
upset.
any rights over it.
Nothing happened to me over it.
They say for these January 6 people, they have had their day in court. And what's really wrong about that is, first of all, even if you have your day in court, it doesn't mean anything. Like, you can have your day in court and still the prosecution has wrongly convicted you. So, big deal.
Right.
But the other thing is, a lot of these people were held for a very long time before getting their day in court, quote unquote, at all.
Which is insane.
Yeah, it's like that should never be a thing. People should not be being punished before they get to the courthouse.
No, like, I don't understand how people don't get upset about that. Like, you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. I see all the time these people held in jail for years, like 7 years, 8 years, waiting for their trial to happen, and you're just robbed of your entire life that time, and then you're found innocent and you don't get anything. Like, nothing happens to recompense all of that time lost.
It's just
and
like, oops,
all of
sorry.
that life, all that life lost.
They don't even say sorry.
They don't even say sorry. They're like, oh, aren't you glad that you are innocent? Like, yeah, I knew I was 8 years ago.
Yep. And horrible things happen to people in prison all the time. Like, it doesn't have to be a Japanese internment camp. It could be it could be today's prison. People are raped in there and hurt and sometimes murdered and just horribly mistreated.
And you're not like, you can't just go like wash yourself when you want to. You can't eat when you want to. You have to eat what they tell you to eat. Like, there's so much more than just being put in a cage that goes into being in jail. Like,
separated from your loved ones.
Every single thing about your life is controlled by another person. You are no longer, you have no freedom, but there's autonomy. You have no autonomy. Like, everything you do is scheduled and controlled by someone.
And it's just like, these people are the Japanese American civil rights leaders, and it's like, do you even know anything about rights at all? It's I feel like somebody who's a civil rights leader already, just like is in their name, they don't understand rights. They don't actually care about human rights, because the thing is, when you start acting like you have to specifically advocate for the rights of some specific group, you just don't understand human rights.
Right.
Like, you could be a Japanese person who is a human rights advocate, and I would respect you so much more than person who's like, no, this specific group needs their civil rights. You all there is right and wrong, and people shouldn't do things that are wrong to you. You have a right to do absolutely everything in your life that isn't wrong to anyone else. It's that simple.
Yeah. And the same way that you shouldn't be having any biases against anyone for the color of their skin or their gender or anything like that, you also shouldn't be giving them preferential treatment for such things.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't think people need to be forced to serve Japanese people in their restaurants, for example. And I'm also not saying that I think people should be kicking people out if they're Japanese if they walk into their restaurant. I'm just simply saying no one should have preferential or discriminatory treatment.
Yeah, nobody should. But like, if I owned a business, it should be fine for me to kick out whoever I want based on anything.
I agree.
Go somewhere else. If I just don't want you here, then that should be my own business.
Yep. So they say that these people had their day in court. They say they've either been indicted or convicted of crimes, and that's why they're being incarcerated. Being indicted and and immediately being incarcerated is exactly what we were just talking about. I can't believe somebody who claims to care about rights in any case is saying, well, they could have been indicted, and that's why they're being incarcerated. There is no reason that somebody should be put in a cage when they haven't been found absolutely guilty of doing something that truly harms someone else.
I agree.
It's ridiculous.
Well, especially because there are so many cases that have no evidence, like just no evidence at all, and people just sit in jail.
They need their 18 months of you being in prison to find some evidence.
Right. No.
Yeah.
Incorrect. Like if someone sees you shoot someone else, like maybe that's evidence, and maybe you should just like move forward immediately with a trial since you have evidence.
And the other thing is just like, it's ridiculous how long the courts have been messed up ever since 2020. They're still saying like, well, due to 2020, the courts are like more backed up and things move slower.
Unprecedented times for the last 4 years.
Yeah, it's been 4 years. It's ridiculous.
Almost 5.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's crazy. Trump, who appeared Friday in an interview on the Dan Bongino show, questioned why those...
That sounds like Kirkland brand John Bon Jovi.
I think he is a wrestler. Oh, this is going to take me away from the page I was on. I just wanted to see if it underlined Dan Bongino, so I wanted to see if that's who it was. I think he's a wrestler, but I could be wrong. So Friday was on a Friday interview on the Dan Bongino show. He was questioned Trump questioned why those prosecuted for their actions during the January 6th riots were still being held after a Supreme Court ruling in June found an obstruction law used to charge scores of rioters was improperly applied.
Yeah, so obstruction is one of those things that they just throw on people because it's so broad.
Yep.
And they just use it for anything.
They're like, yeah, we'll just add this too.
Yeah, right.
Throw this extra charge on.
It's a catch-all, like, oh, you stood too close, or you said something when I was trying to do something, or you hurled abusive words at me and hurt my little feelings. Like, and now it's obstruction. You got to charge.
Yep.
Which is insane. That shouldn't be a charge. Like, unless you are physically impeding the process that is happening, then it's not obstruction. Like holding the cop down. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be doing something real and actual.
It should also be that the police officer was like, they could like prove that they were doing something that actually helped someone, as in like stop someone from being harmed. Because like, it's like, I stopped you from walking to the donut shop. Is that obstruction? Like, you're on the clock.
You were standing too close to watch me pull over this person to make sure I didn't abuse them. Obstruction.
It's ridiculous how they use it. And apparently, I'm shocked. I've never seen that the Supreme Court ruled that the obstruction law they were using was improperly applied. I hadn't heard about that. I never hear about anything like that. Like, oh, if it was found that they improperly applied this charge, like, wow, they never really do that. He said, why are they still being held? Nobody's ever been treated like this. Maybe the Japanese during the Second World War, frankly. But, they were held too. Oh my God, so what he's saying is...
He didn't even compare them.
He's not saying, like, what they're doing is worse. In fact, he's saying, like, the only other thing I can think of in America that was this bad was the Japanese in World War II. It's, like, clearly saying it was a bad thing.
Yeah, saying nobody's ever been treated like this before except for them.
Wow.
That's not even like a real comparison. People just like to be upset.
Yeah, they like to be offended. They're victims. And it gives them some kind of, like...
thrill.
It's like my mom was saying today, like, that it's such victim mentality nowadays that when people realize they're a victim of something, they feel like they're, like, lucky enough to be a victim of something. Like,
I saw a video of someone, exactly that thing happening. It was like I don't even remember who the person was, what they looked like, any of that. But they were like, oh, I was hate crimed today. And they were like really excited about it to like tell their story. And I was like, that's gross.
I just couldn't wait to get to TikTok.
It finally happened.
Oh my God.
I get to be really part of the team now.
And they're probably lying too.
Probably. They're probably lying. Yeah. Even if they're not lying, like hate crime's not a real thing.
Yep.
Unless, you're literally lynching people or something like that for the color of their skin.
And like, even then, like murder is illegal.
And you're obviously hating people if you're murdering them.
Yeah.
You don't love them. But if I say bad things about somebody, that's not a hate crime.
Yep.
It shouldn't be a crime at all.
Yeah, you can't get into Lori's head and say, well, she said this bad thing about specifically a Japanese person. That means she hates Japanese people.
Right.
That's like making thought crimes illegal.
Mm-hmm. And like not even a thought crime, like a suspected thought crime.
Yep. They say roughly 120,000 Japanese Americans were incarcerated in internment camps during World War II after then President Franklin D. Roosevelt issued an executive order. Biden called it one of the most shameful periods in American history. Yeah, we really need him to tell us that. Ann Burroughs, the president and chief executive of the Japanese American National Museum, called Trump's comparison egregiously inaccurate and flawed. Like, what is inaccurate about it? He said nobody's ever been treated this badly, maybe the Japanese. It's not like he said anything that you can really say that, oh, that is incorrect. It's like his opinion.
Yeah, and it was more like he didn't want to say like no one's ever had such a bad time, because then he thought about that and was like, oh, maybe these people,
exactly,
they had a pretty bad time also.
Oh my God. I can't even believe anyone is deciding to be offended over this.
Can you not though?
Yeah, that's true. They said, this is an egregiously inaccurate and flawed historical analogy. There is no comparison between the treatment received by the January 6th rioters and Japanese Americans who were denied due process. These people were denied due process and they don't care. The other guy specifically said, well, I mean, they got indicted. That's literally denying them the due process of not being punished before they're proven guilty.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, these Japanese Americans also were denied due process when they were forcibly removed from their homes, systematically dispossessed and incarcerated for the duration of the war. Dispossessed. Does that mean like taken, like they were stolen from?
I think, yeah, it means like your possessions were taken away.
Well,
if you're incarcerated, yeah.
What all they said is all true about what happened to the Japanese Americans. It's just exactly what you're saying. Like, yeah, and that's exactly what it means, like stolen from.
Yeah, I think that was more like, it was more of an afterthought that he said that, like, he was saying, oh, no one's ever been treated this bad. And then in his mind, he was like, oh, wait.
Mm-hmm. If anything, it's like kind of like a respectful thing to do.
Yeah, he was like just trying to be like, oh, I don't want to say that because they also went through really terrible things. So let me say, except for maybe these people, because they had terrible things happen too. And now everyone's mad at him for it.
Yeah, honestly, Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing.
I think so.
Because it's like just the fact that Trump said this thing, they're freaking out. If someone else had said it, I think they would be reading it in the exact way you and I are describing. That like the more gracious way to interpret what he said. If Biden said that, no one would be up in arms.
Right.
I promise no one will be up in arms.
Nobody would understand him anyway, so.
Yeah.
Nobody could be mad about it.
He wouldn't have been able to get those many sentences out and in a way that people could understand. You're right. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up. 603-283-6160. What do you think about anything we've been talking about? Or anything you want to change the subject to? 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Sally Patterson with a look back at some of the week's top stories. Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, who was behind the October 7th attacks, has been killed in Gaza. Sinwar, who was jailed by the Israelis for decades, had become the movement's most powerful figure in the months since Hamas's attack on Israel. Israeli officials examined dental images and DNA evidence to identify the body. The Hamas leader was killed by Israeli forces on Wednesday. Iran called Sinwar's death a source of inspiration for resistance fighters. Our US correspondent Simon Marks reports.
Mr. Sinwar was seen here in Washington as the key figure representing Hamas in now defunct talks about a possible ceasefire and release of hostages. He was well known to the Israelis, having spent decades in their jails and becoming friendly in jail with at least one Israeli who would go on to become a key negotiator with Hamas. On several occasions previously, Mr. Sinwar was reported to have been killed, only later to have shown up alive and still in charge in Gaza.
David Mencer is a spokesperson for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He says Sinwar's killing does not mean the end of the war.
The mission is not over yet. It is certainly, as the Prime Minister said, the first day of the day after Hamas, we think. But our mission will not end until we bring all of our 101 hostages home now. Hamas need to set them free.
The United States described Sinwar's death as a good day for Israel and the world. Meanwhile, the US has demanded Israel boost aid access to Gaza and warned failure to do so would risk cutting off some US military assistance. Benji Haya reports.
This letter amounts to the strongest known written warning yet from the White House, urging the Israeli government to allow for a greater distribution of aid in Gaza for at least the next 4 months. Israel's ground offensive has forced millions of Palestinians to evacuate their homes to temporary camps, exposing them to dangerous diseases.
Earlier this week, former One Direction singer Liam Payne was found dead in Argentina at the age of 31. Local officials say he fell from the balcony of his hotel room in Buenos Aires. Staff at the hotel had requested urgent police assistance shortly before Payne's death. They were concerned about an aggressive man who, quote, could be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. In a statement, Payne's former bandmates said they were taking some time to grieve and process their loss. Showbiz reporter in LA, Sean Mandel, says fans had been hoping for a One Direction reunion.
So many people will have grown up with One Direction, will have grown up with the music of them and can still vividly remember where they were and how they felt when the band broke up. Payne was in Argentina, actually, to see his fellow One Directioner, Niall Horan, perform at a concert in Argentina. And moments like that did give people hope that there may someday be a One Direction reunion.
UK inflation has fallen to an annual rate of 1.7, its lowest in over 3 years. It raises expectations the Bank of England will cut interest rates further in November. Fuel and airfare costs dropped significantly in the latest data, though there was a jump in grocery inflation. Markets analyst David Buick says the numbers surprised investors.
They're taking into account the cost of food having possibly come down, clothing, and also petrol. Core inflation, which is ex-petrol, tobacco and other areas of that nature, is down from 3.6% to 3.2%. That is also a very significant drop.
China's economy grew at the slowest pace since early 2023 in the 3 months to September, according to data released on Friday. The property sector remains a big challenge for Beijing as it tries to boost growth. Meanwhile, the Smithsonian National Zoo in Washington, D.C. welcomed 2 giant pandas from China as the panda diplomacy between both countries resumes. Laura Westbrook reports.
Bao Li and Qing Bao are both 3 years old. They left southwest China for their new home. They are the first pandas from China to arrive in the U.S. capital in 24 years. The zoo's panda exhibit had been empty for 11 months, since the last 3 wildly popular pandas were sent back to China. China's renewed panda diplomacy with the U.S. is a rare bright spot in relations between the world's 2 superpowers. Tensions have risen over trade, technology, and geopolitics. Laura Westbrook, Hong Kong.
That's your roundup of news making headlines this week. Sally Patterson reporting.
You are nothing more than the reflection of a grim, pitiless world, and this is The Onion Week in Review. Following the Supreme Court's ruling on same-sex marriage this week, overjoyed gay couples in Florida rushed out of their homes to have their marriages denied to them. Homosexual couples throughout the southern state told reporters they were ecstatic over the landmark decision supporting gay rights and said they couldn't wait to wait in line and have their requests to be wed rejected by their home state. And in science news, scientists probably discovered a frog or something. They're always doing that sort of shit. In other news, an 8-year-old boy surprises his Marine father during a firefight in Afghanistan. Johnny Depp is now physically unable to walk unless whimsically teeter-tottering across a rolling log, wobbly plank, or swaying beam. And Silvio Berlusconi is transferred to a steamy, all-female penitentiary. If you're seeking a celebrity interview, stay away from that bastard Tobey Maguire, who apparently can't even pick up a phone to say he has a schedule conflict and won't be able to make it into the studio. For more, keep checking theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. And Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny Liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. With you on Free Talk Live, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Lori.
And in last segment, we were talking about how Trump is under fire for comparing, they said, the January 6 people who were in prison to the Japanese people during World War II who got sent to internment camps. Last little quote on it from a Japanese civil rights activist. Japanese Americans are not and should not be compared to insurrectionists who committed major crimes and in which people were hurt and killed. I hate when people say that because the only person that was killed by a cop, right, and was one of the quote writers.
Right.
Oh my God, that's such a that's just a lie where you purposely mix a few facts together to make a lie. Mm-hmm. Like that is true that somebody was killed that day. Not true that the quote insurrectionists went and killed someone. That's a totally different thing.
That's propaganda.
That's propaganda for you. Yamamoto, I missed what her first name was. They continue. And I think that is just so horrible to try and even make that comparison or allege that there's any similarities between the two. Wow, these people just want to be victims so bad. Mm-hmm. And then they accuse the January 6 people of it. It says, the former president had previously backed the January 6 insurrectionists, labeling them warriors and victims. Those January 6, they were warriors, but they were really more than anything else. They're the victims of what happened. Okay, I thought they were saying that I don't know. I thought they were trying to say that he wants them to be seen as victims when they're not. But, I mean, they literally were victims of the Justice Department, so... Mm-hmm. I don't really blame him for feeling that way. Well, In other news, this from the Wall Street Journal, worldwide efforts to reverse the baby shortage are falling flat. So they've been doing all kinds of things to try to incentivize people to have kids in different countries too, not just one. I've definitely heard about this in Japan, but I haven't heard about it in other places.
I have. I've heard that there's a lot of places that are like, have babies and we'll give you such and such.
Wow. It says, imagine if having children came with more than $150,000 in cheap loans. Okay. Just getting $150,000 is different than a loan, a quote-unquote cheap loan.
Yeah, what kind of loan, though? Because, Kamala saying she's going to give specifically black men, what was it, forgivable loans? It's not a loan. If it's forgivable, that's not a loan. That's just a handout.
Wow.
Because you don't have to pay it back.
Interesting. Well, it's just like, is that her trying to... apologize for keeping black people in prison for longer than they were supposed to be by hiding evidence, suppressing evidence of their trials?
Probably.
I don't think she even realizes that that's a thing that she did or whatever.
No, I'm sure she realizes it.
These people, for some, I think that they just have they just care so little about what they do to other people and what they've done. It doesn't affect them, doesn't help them not sleep at night or anything. So,
I think
for all I
that
know, she doesn't care. Remember that.
I think that usually they just assume that everyone's stupid, which is kind of true.
Yeah.
But the problem here is that Kamala is stupid, and so she's not good at it.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god. I saw a video last night. I don't remember the lady's name. Really pretty black lady YouTuber. She was reviewing
Candace Owens.
No, actually. I thought she was way prettier than Candace Owens. I don't know. I don't think Candace Owens is ugly or anything. She's just like boring. Anyways, doesn't really matter. This lady was reviewing a video with Candace Owens, and she was so Candace Owens was showing an interview with this lady named Dorothy who used to know Kamala Harris's family, and she was saying that Kamala Harris's grandma, that is supposedly the mother of Kamala Harris's supposedly black father, was white, and she said she looked Irish. And then the lady who was doing the YouTube video that I was watching, she was saying there's nothing more insulting than borrowing a picture of a black lady, borrowing a black person to try to gain points and curry favor with black people for the black vote.
You've never seen like a black person and been like, I wonder where their family comes from, Zimbabwe or Ireland?
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Even if you thought like, oh, she might be mixed, I don't think you'd be able to say, I think she might be Irish, because those mixtures are like gonna make it to where you can't tell. Like, there are a lot more recessive genes. I mean, Ireland is like recessive gene capital.
I guess maybe if I saw like a black person with red hair and freckles and like green eyes, then I might be like, hey, they might be Irish a little.
Yeah. Only scenario really, but
or like lady, they had a shillelagh or something.
But this lady, she just the lady that she took a picture of and said was her grandmother in her like autobiography is just a black lady, like she doesn't look mixed. Actually, what happened was people believe, or I don't know that it's what happened, but what people believe is that it was a nanny that Kamala Harris grew up being taken care of by. So imagine being like, oh, I'm just going to pretend that this picture of me with my black nanny is my grandma so that way I can get the black vote. That's crazy. That's like honestly psychopathic.
Yeah.
So we have some callers on the line. I'm going to go to Dana in Michigan. Dana, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
I called to answer your question. So, Bonnie, you asked what was the purpose of her offering to forgive loans for black men, because she's down the tubes. She's underwater with black men. There have been many black men all over YouTube who have quite heavy followings, some of them not so much, but they've been on television, but especially on YouTube, TikTok. This is her attempt, because black men have been, for lack of a better word, red-pilled. They themselves, I'm not saying this and being condescending, they have said this on their own channels. We're finally waking up. They have not forgot for what she did to them in California with the pod, as well as the cheap labor. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is the last time you had Mark Edge on, when Peakless was on with you guys, this was about 4 weeks ago, and I called in and I told everyone in the listening audience, as well as you four that were hosting that night, you need to just go to Google, in the search bar, Judge Joe Brown, and then right after that, Kamala Harris. You don't have to say, you can put and in there, but Judge Joe Brown, who was the male version and black of Judge Judy, who was so popular. Judge Joe Brown doesn't play, and he doesn't mince words. It's an 11-minute and some seconds. There's a longer version. He talks about other people he knows, but the 11-minute version is strictly on Kamala. You have got to see her history. I'm not shocked by a lot because I do so much background research, not just political, but I've done that for a living. And so I can cut corners and cut to the chase. But I thought I knew a lot about her. What he said was personal knowledge that he knows. I told you guys, she slept her way to the top. And Peakless's response was, he was not as concerned about how she slept her way to the top, but that she wants to tax unearned income. So she wants to tax income that you may or may not, like if you sell a house, capital gains.
She wants to
may make capital gains or not, and he was more concerned with that. But quite honestly, that's the least of our problems. The reason why I was fearful of her sleeping her way to the top, because whether it's a male doing it, and it does happen, but mostly it's females, this woman is dangerous. And I'm not being theatrical by saying that. When you've got someone that's got access to nuclear codes, and that's not even the worst. That would be the worst of it. But my fear is she's going to destroy this country because she's an idiot. You've got to watch that Judge Joe Brown video. She didn't even show up for her jobs that she was given she was 29 and a new attorney and sleeping with a 60-year-old Los Angeles mayor, Willie Brown, who was married, and he gave her not one, but two jobs. First, a 15-hour a week job, 15 hours a week. That's not even part-time. That's quarter time. And for some people, that's almost no time if you put in long weeks. Then he gave her a 20-hour a week job to get her up to almost $200,000 a year. Wow. This was years ago when that woman was 29, 31 years ago, and she couldn't even be bothered showing up for work at either part-time job. What does that tell you? Then she wanted to get into this prestigious law firm. They didn't want anything to do with her in LA. So she starts sleeping with an NBA star. He was their number one client. They made the most money off him. And he said, hey, I want you to hire her. Guess what? She's in. Then the next thing was the AG. And she did something to get there. He'll even tell you about a situation that he was speaking at a conference and he witnessed this. He was talking to Willie Brown, the LA mayor at the time, and Kamala was with him on this trip because that was his mistress. And some black female judge came up to talk to Willie Brown because you know how networking is the number one way to get jobs, not sleeping with someone, but networking, which is legit. This black female judge was talking to Willie. She came up and threatened in front of Willie and Judge Joe Brown, who was his event speaker, to throw down with this woman. She goes, whoa, I'm not even attracted to this man. All you got to do is Google Willie Brown and see why nobody was attracted to him except for Kamala, because he bought her a 700 series BMW. She wears, look at her jewelry that she wears. That woman owns over $250,000 worth in jewelry. On her salaries, if you do the math, and I'm pretty good with numbers, so I've done it, there's no way she could have afforded that jewelry that she wears. It may not look like anything, but my fear, and I was trying to get this out to your audience as well as Peakless, is he was afraid of the taxation and the crazy stuff she's proposing. I am too, but what I'm saying is, when you've got an idiot that somehow managed not just to hop one level, but multiple levels to run for the presidency, she literally can single-handedly destroy this country. The part that's left after what Biden hasn't already done, but we all know that Biden isn't running in the country. It's already been admitted that there's a team of people at the top, and Obama is leading that team. It's all his people, and they've been making the decisions. So this is crazy. So I don't want to hear any crap out of the other side about Trump or his stupid text messages or whatever else he does. What's been going on for the past 4 years is beyond outrageous, but it's about to get worse if that woman gets in. There's one more thing I want to say to both you ladies in the audience.
Okay.
So not so many months ago, the Democratic Party, Obama's included, both Michelle and Barack, she's in it up to her neck. Don't let you think she's the nice lady that the whole country loves, but they're not maybe so crazy about her husband anymore. But the Obamas and all the Dems were trying to figure out how to push Kamala out and get Joe out and put somebody else in. Maybe Governor Whitmer from our state, which they can have her. I'll drive her there. I'll fly her there. Anyway, but that being said, or another black female, i.e. Michelle Obama. So this woman was so stupid, her own party didn't want her, and they were trying to figure out how are we going to get around this and not be called racist and then turn the whole black vote against us. That was just a couple of months ago, and they just decided, well, this is inside baseball, and I can't reveal where I got this from, but they decided we're going to keep Kamala, but we'll just keep doing what we've been doing for the last 4 years. She's going to be a figurehead just like Biden was. She is not going to actually be running the government, but this woman has such an attitude that there's no way she's going to let anyone boss her around. So, yes, I agree with what Peakless said. I'm terrified of that, but taxation is going to be the least of our problems. But I wanted to answer your question, Bonnie. It's because the black men are PO'd at what she did, in addition to, in general, just being red-pilled and waking up. And so she offered those racist forgiveness on those loans. That is racist. You can do that. Our Constitution says that.
Right.
So anyway, so that's why she's doing that.
Well, thank you so much for all the information. I'm definitely going to look up the Judge Joe Brown and Kamala thing. Probably watch that with my mom later because we watched all that other Kamala stuff together last night. And I agree that dumb and extremely motivated to get whatever you want is like a terribly terrifying
and powerful
mixture. That's a terrible mixture.
One of my favorite things of late that I've been seeing a lot of is
thank you for the call, Dana,
is that whole thing where black people are now like, hey, this is racist. Like, you guys are telling us that we have to vote for Kamala because she's black, or we have to do this because we're black, or
that
whatever.
You couldn't run a successful business and you need her loan.
Or that if we don't vote for Joe, we're not black. Like, all these things. This is really racist. You guys think you're like virtue signaling that you are for black people, but what you're actually doing is being racist. And I love that they're like acknowledging that is extremely racist.
Yeah.
It's offensively manipulative.
During the debate with Kamala and Trump, the debaters, which they didn't ask anything like this to Kamala, but they asked Trump, they were like, so Trump, why did you say this horrible thing? You said that Kamala wasn't black before, and he didn't really answer very well, but honestly, it's a good point that a woman is running basically on being black right now. She never was calling herself black or claiming to be for like most of her career.
Yeah, she was always saying about how she was Indian.
Yeah, it's just like I think that that's an important thing to point out, that she's kind of trying to manipulate people, and it's kind of like a gross way to do it too. It's like, what's the difference between that and like a minstrel show if she's not really black? Even worse.
Even if she is, it's a disgusting thing to like say, hey, the color of my skin matters so much that that's what you should be worried about.
It always grosses me out as a woman when people are trying to say you should agree with me because I'm a woman. Yes. I'm just like, no, that's absolutely stupid. I don't become friends with people just based on them having the same genitals as me. I don't agree with people based on that. I just think that is a really stupid way to look at the world.
It is. It's a terrible way to look at the world. It's not going to have any net positive outcome.
Mm-hmm. It's not what smart people do either.
No.
Jet, you are on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind, Jet?
Well, I always like to bring up this uplifting points, but I wanted to mention something about the black and white first of all. And that is, the way I see it, very few people on this planet are actually black, and probably fewer that are white, and probably belong in the hospital because of it. But people who call themselves black are typically brown, tan, mahogany, dusty, whatever. I think that's kind of funny. And people who call themselves white are actually, in my mind, pink.
I know. I always say I'm not white. I'm pink.
I don't think I'm peach.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, you're more olive than me. I'm legit pink. So.
Yeah, but the uplifting point of the day is that we have at least 7.2 billion people on this planet, and there are only 6 men who hold the fate of mankind in their hands.
Terrifying.
A couple presidents like Putin and Xi Jinping, they call themselves presidents. There's the Ayatollah and was Kim Jong-un, who call themselves the supreme leader. And of course, there's Netanyahu as a prime minister, that kind of thing.
And the Ayatollah, isn't that Iran?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and what's really bothersome to me is that these 6 people hold the lives and the ongoing existence of the whole world in their hand. Now, if somehow, we could get the good Lord of the universe to just kind of move those people aside, that would be great. But that was
they'd just be
that I was thinking about today.
Instantly refilled. The spots would be instantly refilled.
Well, that's true, but would they have the credibility? What I'm thinking.
I feel like they just get the credibility by the people around them being like, this is the new guy. And so all of the non-thinking followers of the guy who says he's in charge just fall in line.
Yeah, it's like basically with Kamala. It's like suddenly people went from, she's never been voted, she's never gotten a nomination at all, but all of a sudden people who act like democracy is the most important thing ever are backing her 100%.
Yeah, people in fact didn't like her. They were like, we don't like her. We don't find her to be relatable in any way or genuine. She's not intelligent. She's not a good speaker. She doesn't have good policy. She has no policies. That was her problem last time too. She had no policies to offer to anyone. And then suddenly, now that she's running on the DEI ticket, she's, the savior of the universe.
Well, yeah, to Bonnie's, I think it was Bonnie's point, the idea that they complain all the time about how we're ruining the democratic process, where in fact they just installed this individual, without any vote whatsoever. So how uplifting is that for you today?
Yeah, very. I feel so much better.
Yeah.
Anything else on your mind, Jet?
Well, probably, but I'm going to go out for a run.
Oh, sounds nice. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live. You can call in with whatever is on your mind. 603-283-6160.
Dine with Seinfeld's parents. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. You can still afford to dine out occasionally by shopping smart. As they do at Del Boca Vista, eat early. In restaurant lingo, you are in the first turn. A certain oyster bar my wife and I like offers buck a shuck before 6 p.m. Other tips? Opt in if your favorite spot has an email list. They'll tout specials. Have dessert at home. It and drinks are restaurants' most profitable items, and every add-on adds up to the tip. Members actually bother reading what AAA and AARP send you. You're entitled to a discount at some restaurants. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks at andyoucanquoteme.com.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Sally Patterson with a look back at some of the week's top stories. Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, who was behind the October 7th attacks, has been killed in Gaza. Sinwar, who was jailed by the Israelis for decades, had become the movement's most powerful figure in the months since Hamas's attack on Israel. Israeli officials examined dental images and DNA evidence to identify the body. The Hamas leader was killed by Israeli forces on Wednesday. Iran called Sinwar's death a source of inspiration for resistance fighters. Our US correspondent Simon Marks reports.
Mr. Sinwar was seen here in Washington as the key figure representing Hamas in now defunct talks about a possible ceasefire and release of hostages. He was well known to the Israelis, having spent decades in their jails and becoming friendly in jail with at least one Israeli who would go on to become a key negotiator with Hamas. On several occasions previously, Mr. Sinwar was reported to have been killed, only later to have shown up alive and still in charge in Gaza.
David Mencer is a spokesperson for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He says Sinwar's killing does not mean the end of the war.
The mission is not over yet. It is certainly, as the Prime Minister said, the first day of the day after Hamas, we think. But our mission will not end until we bring all of our 101 hostages home.
The United States described Sinwar's death as a good day for Israel and the world. Meanwhile, the US has demanded Israel boost aid access to Gaza and warned failure to do so would risk cutting off some US military assistance. Benji Hire reports.
This letter amounts to the strongest known written warning yet from the White House, urging the Israeli government to allow for a greater distribution of aid in Gaza for at least the next 4 months. Israel's ground offensive has forced millions of Palestinians to evacuate their homes to temporary camps, exposing them to dangerous diseases.
Earlier this week, former One Direction singer Liam Payne was found dead in Argentina at the age of 31. Local officials say he fell from the balcony of his hotel room in Buenos Aires. Staff at the hotel had requested urgent police assistance shortly before Payne's death. They were concerned about an aggressive man who, quote, could be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. In a statement, Payne's former bandmate said they were taking some time to grieve and process their loss. Showbiz reporter in LA, Sean Mandel, says fans had been hoping for a One Direction reunion.
So many people will have grown up with One Direction, will have grown up with the music of them and can still vividly remember where they were and how they felt when the band broke up.
That's your roundup of news making headlines this week. Sally Patterson reporting.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. That means you can call 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160 to bring up whatever's on your mind. And it's officially unofficial. We've been podcasting since podcast began, but we're launching a new podcast anyway. Our new podcast is a 30 to 45-minute show, releasing once a week, and you can find it at freetalkcast.com. It's brought to you by the same people who bring you Free Talk Live, and we'd love for you to check it out. The existing radio archive isn't going anywhere. This is just a new show designed from the start to be a podcast, so check it out at freetalkcast.com. With you on Free Talk Live, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Lori.
And we started this article before the last two calls in the last segment. It's from Wall Street Journal. It says, worldwide efforts to reverse the baby shortage are falling flat. So multiple different countries, they have been trying to incentivize people to have kids. One of them, they said, imagine if having children came with more than $150,000 in cheap loans, a subsidized minivan, and a lifetime exemption from income taxes. Would people have more kids? The answer, it seems, is no. I just feel like the decision whether or not to do something with your literal body and take on a responsibility doesn't have as much to do with like a few free things as they're acting like. Right. Has to do with like all of society.
Right. So like all of that's all fine and good. Nice little things you're going to give me for having a kid. But I also have to consider that the income and the cost of living currently are not compatible. To rent a place to live or to buy a place to live is so crazy expensive right now. And then you put the expense of having children on top of it. And also daycare, like in order to pay for like daycare, you have to pay almost everything you're making at like a normal job. Not like a well-paying job, but like a just average job that most people have. So you got to have one person stay home, and then the other person's going to have to make a lot of money to do that, or send your kids to daycare. And like the public school system's a mess, and like just the whole world's falling apart. We got World War III looming over us.
Just like what kind of quality of peers are your kids going to have? Things like that.
That too. Like everything is so divisive in the world.
The amount of people I've seen going through with actual gender reassignment surgery, I'm just like, I didn't know there were that many stupid people on the whole planet. Like, it shocks me so much whenever they're saying like, oh, I've been having some complication for my fake, like my hole in my torso that
I have to dilate constantly so that it doesn't close up.
That it's just a wound that the doctors are calling a vagina, but it can never be and never will have any of the functions of that, and it takes away your sexual function and as in like feeling and stuff like that. I can't imagine being so stupid that I would even take a risk like that.
I hear all these people too that are like, oh, just put them on hormone blockers, but that like guarantees that they're not going to have normal puberty. And so they're not going to develop as a sexually functioning adult person. And the argument I always hear back is, why are you worried about kids' sexual function? And it's because being a kid is not a permanent thing. They are going to grow into adults.
Yeah. And
that is part of being a healthy adult, is having a healthy sexual aspect to your life.
Yeah. And like, it has to do with love and everything else. Like, I Am Jazz. She is a trans kid that has been being transitioned since she was a little kid by her parents, and it really seems like the mom gets some kind of gratification from it and has pushed it on her.
Like Munchausen?
Yeah, but even just like the praise in general, she just likes it. But yeah, I know it's a like aspect of Munchausen, but either way, what I was saying was, she's been on puberty blockers and then actually got gender reassignment surgery at, I think, 17 years old. And just from the puberty blockers, like not even the actual surgery, she has never been interested in kissing. And she said that she's like, doesn't really understand it. She's had boyfriends and like she just does it because she feels like it's a thing she has to do. And it's just like, that's like sad.
There's so many like aspects to this thing. Oh, one thing about that is like, I also hear people saying they don't do this to kids, which is not true, because I see it all the time. I see it all the time. Like, oh, this 14-year-old went and had a double mastectomy for no good reason. Like, and just why would you let a kid do that? Their brains are not even fully formed.
It's like these same people wouldn't be against children having sex. Honestly, having sex is less detrimental to their future and their brains than having their boobs cut off or their penis cut off or
being
their
put on sterilization drugs.
Yeah, even just the drugs. Like, I don't believe that it does nothing permanent. It's crazy.
And what's wrong with just like telling these kids? So if your genitals have nothing to do with who you are, then why do you have to change your genitals to affirm who you are?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
I know plenty of trans people that don't, and that's the thing. Like, they could just not.
They could just not. And like, what is wrong with being a man who wears dresses and makeup or a woman who wears like men's clothing? Why does it have to go to the point where you are changing biology? If you're accepting who you are and that's who you are, then that's who you are. Like, you are already who you are. You don't need to change anything about yourself. Just embrace who you actually are and live your life.
And I think it's so funny because I've always wondered what was the propaganda behind accept yourself as who you are, because I believe that's a great thing and it is a good thing. One part of the propaganda could be, well, sometimes you do need to change, as in like sometimes you need to get better and not just accept that you're like, so many people say things like, people think it's rude that I just tell it like it is, but that's just who I am. I just tell it like it is. Maybe you need to work on who you are and having more like being couth, you know?
Yeah, or like you can still tell things how they are without being a jerk.
Yeah, so that's just an example. But another one I think is just like accepting who you are has turned into like, if you have any like inkling of an idea, well, you got to commit to it for life. Like,
right,
I am a blank, 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 blank. It's like,
I didn't know who I was at 14.
Right. But, oh my God. I was like basically a kid. Like,
if I
seriously.
had to like be beholden to the things that I believed and like wanted when I was 14, my life would be so incredibly different than it is right now.
Yeah, it'd be boring too. Like,
It'd
to me,
be
because
terrible.
little kids can't really like imagine like the greatest life that at 14, you know?
And you have no idea. You have no idea who you are. You have to grow and your brain has to develop and you have to experience things in order to find out where you actually fit in the world and like who you internally are. And it never stops. Like, that never stops. Who I am never stops growing if you're doing it right.
That's the thing. I think it's good to tell people to accept who they are, as in not try to hide things about themselves. Like, if you feel deep inside, hey, I don't really like when my friends and I do this, but you're forcing yourself to be cool, that's definitely a thing where you should just like accept who you are, tell them, hey, I don't want to participate anymore. But it's different to say you should never change. And I finally figured out that's exactly where the propaganda is there.
Yeah, you should definitely change and like always aim to better yourself, but yourself, like not this other thing that you think you should be.
Right. Don't just like try to build yourself into something that you're not, which is kind of what you're doing when you're cutting off your penis and
yes,
or cutting off your vagina and adding a skin tube made of arm skin onto it. So we have a caller on the line, David from New Mexico. David, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yeah, what's love got to do with it?
Lots of stuff.
Oh, really? Like what? Name one.
What?
I bet you can't name one.
Stuff that love's got to do with? Well, David, when a man and a woman love each other.
It's not what love's got to do with it. It's what's love got to do with it.
What?
It's a secondhand emotion. It's a song.
Isn't that a Tina Turner?
I think so, yeah.
Song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom really liked her when I was a kid, and I was always like, she's a bit much.
How about that duet that Tina Turner and Eros Ramazzotti do? Have you heard that one?
No.
I don't know who that is.
Me either. His name is Eros. His name is Rice.
Eros, like love.
Eros.
Love
Okay.
got to do. Yeah, Eros.
Does she sing "Ring My Bell" or am I completely wrong?
No, that's somebody
Donna
else.
Summer.
Oh yeah.
That's a
What's
very-
the like most famous Tina Turner song?
What's that about, Bonnie? Ring My Bell. What is that song about?
See, when a man
Bonnie.
loves a woman.
Wait, that's a different song. No, about ringing the bell. What does that one got? What does that mean?
What has it got to do with it?
Yeah, what does it got to do with it, Bonnie?
Oh, Simply the Best is probably like her most famous song.
I'd probably have to hear it. Maybe I'd recognize it if I heard it.
I know that you would recognize it if you heard it because commercials use that song.
Yeah, commercials use it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Sing it, David.
I don't know. I think I only got those couple. I can't remember the rest of the words. I can hear her singing it, but I can't.
What, Simply the Best?
Yeah, you are simply the best. What else is there?
It's simply the best, better than all the rest, better than anyone I've ever known.
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
That's what we have written in the studio about David.
There's this band called the Nicotine Dolls, and they do a version of Simply the Best, and it's really good.
The LA Dolls?
The Nicotine Dolls.
The Nicotine Dolls. Are they related to the New York Dolls?
I don't think so.
Pariah the
LA
Doll?
Doll?
David, what's actually on your mind?
The Dollhouse in Fort Lauderdale?
I don't even know what that is.
Now we're into Motley Crue songs. Girls, Girls, Girls. You know that song? Let's see. I called about. I was looking at. I did find Charlotte there in New Hampshire. She's living alive and well and living on the Winnie Marine live webcam. Lake Lake Winnisquam?
Charlotte, like the spider.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she. I was looking at New Hampshire webcams after Bonnie gave. What?
Sorry, Lake Winnipesaukee?
No, not Pisaki. I saw that one too. Winnisquam. WINNI Squam. SQUAM.
Never been there.
Never been. See, I knew I was not the thing in my right mind when I asked Bonnie to be my tour director.
I was the one that gave you like way more information than the others.
What's like that?
No, I'm sorry. You're correct. Bonnie was the one that succeeded. It was Lori that failed.
Yeah, it's probably me.
Lori. Yeah, Lori just said everything's pretty.
It is.
Yeah, well, that's true. But so what? Let me.
I actually have been near here, I guess, because I never heard the name, but it's right by Fun Spot, and I've been to Fun Spot. It's an hour and 24 minutes away from here.
Everybody's been to Fun Spot, Bonnie.
There's that. There's a lake. I guess it's in Massachusetts. I guess it's in Massachusetts, but it's got a really hard to say name. You could go there.
I can say it. Tell me what it is. I'll say it for you.
Oh, man. Chabunagungagamog.
Whoa.
Something. I'd have to see it written out.
It's really CHAUBUNAGUNGAMAUG.
That just sounded like random letters.
that was too fast.
They call it Lake Webster because no one can say it.
Wow. I was telling my mom that one of the worst ones I hate up here, one of the like Native American words that is the name of a lake is Babusick. Oh, I hate that.
That one doesn't bother me.
I see the sign for it every once in a while, like passing it, and I just can't help but think of like baboons. And
I love all the names of places out here. Like there's this place in Maine that I went to. It's a gorgeous place. It's called Mooselicmeguntic, Maine, and I think that's such a fun name.
What?
Mooselicmeguntic.
Mooselicme what?
Mooselicmeguntic.
Now we're getting it worse. Moose lick me, what?
Gun, like shoot a gun, and tick like the animal.
Gun.
Yeah, gun.
Yeah, different letter. I was going with the C.
Oh, that's bad. Very, very bad.
It's really pretty there.
Like Winnisquam?
Most of them are.
Wait. So what do you even mean that you saw Charlotte's Web at Lake Winnisquam?
You know how webcams, outdoor webcams they have a little shroud around the camera lens to protect them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was looking at the webcam, and Charlotte was right there on TV on the webcam because she had built her web right inside of that housing, and so she was on TV all day long.
Nice. She knew where to go.
Yeah. So I got to bring Templeton along.
I have cameras in my like on my property, and then I have a thing where I can see all of them on a TV screen here in the studio, and like sometimes
just like my Mexican neighbor.
Yeah. Sometimes a spider will crawl right in front of them, and it just looks like a giant spider crawling through the yard.
You don't know this, David, but we're recording this show from a triple wide.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is it together? Is it the?
Well, I have a double wide and a single wide, and
they're all spread out across the property.
It's a mash. Oh, spread out. Yeah, that's better. That's the Mexican way.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Actually, they imported. Now there's like people crawling all over that property. All the they the woman and her lesbian daughter moved in there, and now like extended family are moving in. I think that's why they got 3 of those things. Well, actually, they got 4 because they bought a shed to live in, and then after they got the shed, they decided to get the free trailers. And now all the families started showing up, and they're starting to move into all the different trailers.
So they have a quadruple wide and a tiny home.
What are they doing for like a living? Like, don't you live out in the middle of nowhere? Like, do they have any ability to go out and have a job?
No. None of them go to work. They're all just at home all day.
Getting bennies.
It's boring.
Yeah. Of course. The woman, the main woman dude, she said she's applying for her disability from the U.S. federal government.
She doesn't have the ability to get a job, I'm sure.
She probably stands on the corner and waves signs and tells people where to go vote and stuff.
No. She has a job.
Bipolar.
She does like Bonnie does. She drives Uber.
I don't do that right now. Not that I was ashamed of ever doing it.
Yeah, well, she doesn't really do it right now either. Her car is home like at least 4 days a week.
Yeah, I literally worked. I almost had 8. I literally worked 7 days a week when I did that because it's just like, well, I could be sitting here. I could be making money.
Right. But this woman's car is there, basically, like I said, she leaves and goes somewhere about 3 days a week. And she also claims to run some sort of a boutique. But, how do you run a nice boutique from throwaway single wide?
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what I just started thinking. It's like you live out in the middle of nowhere, and like most people who run a boutique, they're like a woman with a rich husband. It's like you're not paying the bills running your boutique. Sorry.
Are you calling the illegals liars?
No, I don't generalize.
Just those specific ones.
That one lady sounds like she may be lying.
Sounds like it. Yeah, she's kind of a little con artist. At least that's how I figured. That's how she's got all the local dudes all over there all the time doing her work for her. I'm sure she's paying them, $20 an hour handyman wage to be there all day, right?
Maybe she's sleeping her way to the top of the quad wide.
Sleeping or slaving?
Sleeping.
But she's too ugly. I don't think anybody would sleep with her besides that Haitian dude.
I've seen a lot of ugly ladies that get...
Yeah, it's so hard.
That get guys.
Let alone pay for it.
It's like you think that only hot guys are out there looking for ladies. It could be an ugly man.
That's true.
Well, they are all ugly men.
Well, see, there you go.
Men, I mean, but your anatomy's got to work. I mean, how do you get it to work even if you're an ugly dude for a woman like this?
I said on Twitter one time, I saw this lady write.
Said on what?
So on Twitter, there was this lady that said, I can't believe how many people think that us obese people can't have sex. They think it's impossible for us to have sex. And I said, it is, isn't it? And oh my God, I've never been more yelled at on the internet.
Well,
seriously, I was shocked. This woman has a huge following.
Yeah, well, if that was impossible, where would we get the saying?
It's just a joke, really.
The better the pushing. Where would that come from if it was impossible?
I mean, is there no limit?
No, for me, there's a definite limit. Yeah.
I feel like in terms of physics, there's got to be a limit.
Oh, well, maybe, never underestimate horny dogs, I mean, pretty much do anything.
All right. See, so she's sleeping her way to the quad wide.
Well, I still can't picture it. I still can't imagine it.
She's not as good at this as Kamala Harris was.
No. Yeah, Kamala has definitely got the game figured out.
Do you think Kamala Harris is attractive, David?
Not anymore.
She did rapidly get old looking.
Yeah, well, and if she had the personality when she was young, which obviously she did, that she has now, that no matter what she looked like, she would still be unattractive.
Yes.
To me.
That laugh. How could you be with somebody for more than 5 seconds who laughed like that?
Yeah, no kidding.
I think if you're
maybe if you're a hyena.
I think if you're a really lonely man, she could con you into thinking she's entertained by me and she's charming.
Oh, you mean like Doug Emhoff?
Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about the guy. His daughter, oh my God, so ugly.
Oh, but she's like a fashionista.
And that's just like more proof that they, them, and those want us to hate beauty.
I've always like disliked the whole fashion world because it's always ugly.
Mm-hmm.
It's always like the worst, most ugly things I've ever seen, and I'm like, what is that?
Well, I see so
Fashion.
many things that get served like in the algorithm. It's like they think I want to look at, and maybe it's because I've clicked on them too many times now. Like 90s fashion stuff, and it's like it used to be so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw these pictures from the Victoria's Secret fashion show, but in like 1998, even not even really that long ago. And their designs and stuff were so much more unique and pretty, and not just like I see something now, and I'm like I can immediately notice that it is a Victoria's Secret bra. It's like got that basic look. It's also basic now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like shocked they even have a runway fashion show every year. It's like, I don't know, you don't have a like Belk fashion show every year.
So
and
the
it's like
thing
on
is,
that level now.
The thing is with Victoria's Secret, now that they've been around so long and it's so established, they don't have to try anymore.
Right, yeah.
So like they just put out this stuff and just rely on the brand name
Mm-hmm.
to get them by. But back in the 90s, they had to be like inventive and like show you things. Like the Victoria's Secret fashion shows from back then were amazing.
Mm.
They'd come out like all blinged out in crystals with like wings and stuff, and they were cool.
I knew you were going to say the wings. I was waiting for you to say the wings, or I was going to say it. How tacky.
Mm-hmm.
The wings are awesome.
No, they're not.
One of them I
They're-
saw was
they're
so ugly
overdone.
recently.
They used to be.
Yeah.
They used to be awesome.
There is okay, on this most recent Victoria's Secret fashion show, there was a trans model, and somebody tweeted they were like okay, you get a trans model, but she has to have the ugly wings, and like these wings are hideous.
Mm-hmm.
They were just like they looked like
Wait, before you run out of time, you do know that Victoria's Secret funded Jeffrey Epstein's child trafficking, don't you?
I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
look into that stuff.
I don't buy Victoria's Secret.
It all looks fake, and yeah, there's no reason for me to buy Victoria's Secret.
There's so many better places to get things.
I buy bras specifically for small boobs, and they work so much better for me than these like made for just anyone off the street in a mall bras.
They work
Don't buy
better
your
for you
bras at
for
the
doing
mall.
what?
Yeah.
They work better for you for doing what, Bonnie?
For being a bra.
What's that mean? I know what a bro means, but what about...
Exactly. I don't think you need to know what a bra does or what it does on anyone here.
So imagine you had to like hold up something of yours that weighed a lot more than any of the things you have hanging off of you.
Like the jock strap I got.
Yeah, it's
but
just
imagine
like
it
your
was a lot
jock
heavier.
strap. It's just like that.
Well, wait a minute. You seem to be awfully knowledgeable about my needs there, Lori.
I've seen you in a Speedo.
That's true.
Oh, okay. How do you know it wasn't photoshopped? I had a not a breast reduction, but something else reduction.
Yeah, it was hurting his back.
You'd be on disability too.
Maybe he is. He's on disability, collecting his disability check from his triple wide, hanging out with his rat friends, and
this is all just a cover.
He got those back issues from having to carry around those two big things.
Mm-hmm. He should have gone to Victoria's Secret for his jockstrap.
He got I wonder if they sell those. No, I don't think they even have a men's section, honestly.
They probably will in the coming months. So one thing I want to say about like the models is all of the obese models and stuff. I can't get down with that. Like I don't want to see it.
No, I don't like it either. I don't understand it. And it's just like there's nothing to strive for when people who are supposed to be showing us like, oh my gosh, like beauty that I need to strive for, like inspiration, is just people who look like they are walking around in your Walmart. It's been Free Talk Live. You can go to Free Talk Live for more. Also go to freeenow.org. Thank you. Peace.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if